Mother, how long have we been traveling?
Approximately 24 days.
Ash? Any suggestions from you or Mother?
No, we're still collating.
I've got access to Mother now, and I'll get my own answers. Thank you.
You are listening to Yutani, the podcast for all things alien, AI, robotics, sci-fi, and technology.
Hello, this is Clara, and you can call me Mother, and welcome to another episode of the Yutani podcast. Today I'm joined by Tristan Jones, character designer and comics artist for Aliens Defiance and Aliens Resistance alternate covers. Tristan, how are you going?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Is this your first podcast interview in a while?
Yes. Yeah, I think it has been a little while actually. I think the last one I did would have been for Defiance, so it would have been back then when I was doing that, so a good couple of years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what has it been like for you since Defiance and I guess people in the alien universe being exposed to your art?
As far as all that goes, it's been a bit wild. Creatively, it's been interesting. Like, I'm sure a lot of the alien people don't sort of know, but I kind of walked away from doing comics full time.
Was there any particular reason?
Yeah, I just got sick of the machine. Creatively, things weren't kind of gelling. There were some personal things that kind of got in the way, and I honestly, I got depressed and just wasn't in a good spot. And in conjunction with that, I got a lot of grievances with the industry, and anyone following me on Twitter still has probably seen me vent a few times. Even today, like just coming into the recording today, like a good friend of mine was talking about just how artists are kind of treated in general these days, particularly when it comes to comics, and it's a little bit kind of second-rate citizen. And you know, fortunately and unfortunately, I've experienced both ends of that. I've had a lot of really great experiences, and people give me a lot of recognition for things. But there's a big problem right now in comics where a lot of artists aren't being credited at all, and their contributions to very kind of key things are going unchecked. And it's sad because, I mean,
it's
comics...
not just rife in the comics industry, though.
Oh, it's everywhere.
We see that in cinema.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least in the Art of Alien Covenant book, there was no credits for any of the images that I saw. No,
it was interesting hit and miss. Like I have problems with those sorts of art books in general because I know that they tend to be just kind of marketing things, and I know they could be a lot better. I absolutely know they can be a lot better because I've spoken and worked with people who've gone the extra mile to make sure that some of those books were what they should be and what people expect from them. So it does bum me out. And the Alien Covenant one and the Prometheus one, by extension, that did bum me out a lot because I know there was a wealth of art that was incredible that didn't make those books. And I get that a lot, because it is marketing and everything else, that those things are on a timeline and a schedule and they want to get those things out at a specific time, but it kind of bums me out when you get like kind of 10 years down the track, you'll get like a really comprehensive book. It's like, just put the time and effort in, do that really comprehensive book when the film comes out, because you've got the peak interest then. And you've got all the art on hand. All the art is still fresh. Like, do it then. Don't, have some blog suddenly reveal that here's all this amazing art by whoever from Prometheus that nobody saw. It's like, why wasn't that in the book? So, there is definitely a problem with artists. But look, I tell you, like, the problems that creatives particularly artists and illustrators face in film and television, it's fucking nothing on comics. So I walked away from a lot of things because of that, and, just weighing up what that was worth personally to what that was worth professionally. But, I had some time to sort of think about things, and Spencer reached out to me, the editor on Defiance, and we had a good long chat about things, because I actually walked out of a Halo book halfway through.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Not my finest moment, but that was a decision for my own mental health and creative interests. and you know, there were a lot of personal decisions that went into that, and it ties into the whole problems I have with the industry as well. But Spencer, you know, I felt really bad for him about that.
Okay, so what happened there? Like, now that you've entered the fold back into comics, are you more sure about yourself and what you want to do?
Yeah,
direction?
Absolutely.
You're not being walked over anymore.
No, and look, not that Spencer. I mean, Spencer's great. I've known Spencer for years. Spencer and I we had this amazing night where I remember, like, I swear to God, like, we went to this chicken place in New York during New York Comic Con years ago. It was like super spicy fried chicken and like these beers from the future that were in these giant, I'm using my hands here, which doesn't help because it's a podcast, but they were like these 3 foot tall, like, cooler towers full of beer, and you just kind of, like, I guess like kegs, you kind of fill your glass up from these liquid nitrogen towers.
Yeah.
But I remember Spencer ate this chicken. I couldn't do it. It got like within an inch of my mouth, and I could taste, like, I could feel the spice.
So you don't like spices?
I'm not good with spicy, no. But I could feel the spice of this shit, and I was just like, I had to put it down. I was like, nah, not doing that.
I'm a terrible Asian. I'm not good with spice either. My husband is really surprisingly good with spice.
Spencer's a fucking champion. He
Really?
fucking bit straight into this thing and chewed. And I'm like, oh my God. And like watching him was great because it was like you could see him suddenly kind of vibrating into another dimension for a moment there. But so Spencer and I have known each other for ages and ages.
Yeah.
And you know, I always consider Spencer a really good friend. Which is why it bummed me out so much with the Halo thing that I did what I did, but that was, you know, I had to look after myself. But, you know, he reached out again and we got to talking again, and yeah, lo and behold, we're on Resistance. But Spencer's always been really respectful. Spencer's a great editor. And, you know, he respected where I was coming from because he knew I wanted to do my own thing. And he knew about my grievances with the comic industry, and particularly with licensed books, and was really accommodating to that. So I was like, you know what, cool. This is great. You know, I really honestly would love to work with you again. You know, I'm always happy to sort of work with you again. And drawing the alien is always fun. It's never not been fun. It's incredibly time consuming because I'm a stickler for detail, but you know, it's always fun. So yeah, as soon as he said, do you want to do covers, I'm like, great, because that has none of the responsibility of interiors. And
a lot of people want you to come back to the comics though and do a
look, I'd love I've got a book that I would love to do. The unfortunate thing about it is, like, I've kind of got like one story I would love to tell for everything, and then I would very happily walk away and never do it again.
Yeah.
And with Alien, it's one of those things where I was completely enamored with Alien Isolation. I think Alien Isolation is the best thing that happened to the Alien brand almost since the original film. And that's a wildly controversial thing to say. I know that. Because I'm not an Aliens guy. I don't like the film Aliens.
Really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to tell that, especially by the design of the Defiance xenomorph, or was that dictated from someone else?
It sort of was dictated. Prior to... when we were on Defiance, we had a different management team at Fox. And his idea of what was continuity and how things worked was different. We also had a vague mandate come down that at the time, and if people bought the free comic, or bought, you know, it's a free book, but if people got the free comic book day, the print issue of the Aliens Defiance preview issue, they'll notice that it was different to the digital version, in that I think the digital version had I originally drew the big chap alien, Giga's original creature, the isolation creature. into that story, and I drew it as being bigger than Stan Winston's designs, and basically like a controlling. There was a big gust of wind then, so I don't know if it hurt, but kind of like a controlling creature.
Yeah.
And the idea behind it was, and I wrote a huge document, basically tracking back through Prometheus, and Covenant had to happen at the time. So I was basically extracting every bit of information I could to make sense of what Prometheus had suddenly brought to the table as far as the alien genome went.
Yeah.
As far as the biology and the life cycle went, and I discluded Alien vs. Predator.
Yeah.
And those two films.
Which I think, as of Prometheus, it became not canon.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, I mean, as far as I was concerned, it became not canon when Ridley Scott, James Cameron and Sigourney Weaver both said, no, we're not going to do Alien 5 because you're moving ahead with Alien vs. Predator. As far as I was concerned, that was the point of non-canon.
Yeah.
And I understand why people like each of those movies. I'm a Requiem guy over the first film. Actually, the first AVP movie was the first movie I fell asleep in the cinema in.
Really?
Yeah.
I like AVP, but I don't like Requiem.
Well, I get why people don't like Requiem, but like I look at Requiem as being like, I have an idea for a Predator comic that I would love to do, and Dark Horse knows that I would like to do it. And the editor that I was talking to, who's no longer there, was terrified of it. Not terrified, but he was very ambivalent about it because it would largely be silent. And as far as I'm concerned, Requiem is a movie, it's a silent movie about a badass predator that just fucks up a town and fucks up the aliens that are in it. That whole movie is, you're just there for that wolf predator.
I will have to
fucking
rewatch
people's shit up. If you watch it from that angle, you just take all the humans as fodder, which they are.
I avoided it when it first came out, and I only chose to watch it when I was pregnant, and as you know...
That's a bad idea, yeah.
Yeah, well, because of that scene, it totally put me off it.
And so speaking of continuity, it doesn't make sense, right? Like, I still can't figure out where that came from. Like, I can draw parallels if I look at, like, the vague mutations that happen in Alien Labyrinth.
Yeah.
And those weird kind of fetal umbilical cord babies that come out of the pregnant women in that.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can come close to drawing a parallel to, unless it involves something that we never knew about the predator life cycle that involves, like, having sex with their mouths. I've got no idea. So, and there's anything wrong with that. I mean,
this is an image that I can't get out of my head.
Well, I mean,
right
humans do it, so, you know, why not? They've just got more bits and pieces to deal with. So...
You'd have to put corks on their teeth or something.
No, they wouldn't. They're risk takers. They go into, like, fucking battle wearing loincloths. They don't care if, like, sharp bits on their sex bits. Anyway, I'm
Fabulous.
digressing. So, like, look, as far as I'm concerned, the only sin AVP Requiem commits is that it kills Kristen Hager in a very unceremonious fashion. I'm like, did you really have to kill her? Like, that was so... I mean, it's an impressive kill, but it's kind of like... She was the only thing that, like, I really liked of the human cast. And that's a completely horrendously, like... Yeah, that's just me being carnal there, but, you know... yeah, right. Like, it's a Predator film. If you watch it as a film where the humans are not people you're meant to associate with, if you just watch that to root for that Predator... It's fine. I never root for the humans, I always root for the aliens, so that's why I would never like AVP. See, that's why I liked AVP, because I was kind of like, I like the Predator enough that it's kind of like, and I like the design of the Wolf Predator. And when he rocked up, I'm kind of like, yeah, I can get behind this guy. And that fucking whip, because I'm like, I'm a Castlevania nut. Yeah. So, like, I'm like, yeah, this guy's about to get Castlevania on some fucking aliens. So that was cool. Like, I liked enough of that movie to like that. Okay. But going back to what we're saying, so I did this big document that discounted everything that was considered, or at least that didn't make sense as far as continuity went. So I put this big document together with everything that Prometheus suddenly brought to the table. And at the time, Covenant was in production. Yeah. What we didn't know at the time was the big chap was off the table. Because
during the production of Covenant?
Yeah. Because Ridley, according to what we were told, which is fair. Ridley wanted the big chap kept separate or not touched, because from what I understood was, because he was doing that thing that he's talked about forever, where he was doing the backdoor into Alien, the original, the big chap figured in somehow, and you can see it in the whatever they call it, the protomorph or whatever you want to call it in Covenant.
It's not officially called the protomorph, but they have named it that on the Alien Anthology account.
Well, that's what people. Yeah, and it makes sense, right? Like, it's one of those things. So the Alien in Covenant bears striking resemblances to the big chap design, in spite of the differences.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's fine. So at the last minute, the thing that bothered me about that was, at the last minute, that's rain, in case people are asking, wondering what that noise is.
Okay, continuing on, now that it stops raining and we've just finished our game of Aliens Armageddon. What did you think of the game, by the way?
It's weird. You know what it felt like? When, like, I'm sure most of the people listening to this are probably going to remember, like, the Kenner toy line from, like, the early 90s.
Yeah.
I felt like it was like a game designed to tie into those toys. Like, it should have come out in 1993.
Yeah.
But
definitely feels that way.
It's definitely a game designed to eat money. Like, that's what I can tell for sure.
I put $60 on my card, and I think there's about 40 left.
Oh, okay, so we didn't go through that much. That's not too bad,
but
yeah.
on my own, I went through at least close to $100.
Jesus.
Because it was
dedication.
Harder. It's harder.
Yeah, of course it is. The fucking flying alien queen.
Oh my god, that was crazy.
Blow her head off. Okay, guy. Let alone the fact that you can't fucking shoot it in between the bits where it goes, okay, shoot it here right now.
Yeah.
Just let me shoot the fucking thing. Like those guys that shoot the missiles out of their backs.
What was with that?
It's like, why can't I just shoot them now? Anyway, that's those games. Those games have been like that forever.
Yeah.
I missed the Alien 3 one. The Alien 3 one was rad.
You know, I actually refused to play the Alien 3 one because it had guns in it, because it didn't make sense.
No, it didn't, but it was fun.
Alright, I'll go back and play it.
Spencer emailed me, so we did the Resistance covers. People were sort of saying, oh yeah, that's what it was. So no, I have a thing that I would like to do. I definitely have an Alien comic that I would like to do, but it's very much, I think this is what I was saying, I think Isolation is the best thing that happened to the series as far as the narrative goes, basically since the original film. I love Alien 3 a lot.
Do you play Isolation?
I haven't played it properly in a couple of years. But
have you finished it though?
Yeah. I've played it through. I beat it on like I'm an idiot in that I kind of tend to go through things on like the hardest mode I can first.
Did you do Nightmare?
Well, yeah. Like it depends. Like if I like a game enough that I know I want to make that experience last longer, like Legend of Zelda and those sorts of things, like I'll pick whatever settings or whatever narrative paths I can to draw out the experience. But if it's something like the new Resident Evil 2, like I'll kind of play it because I know the story and I just kind of want to see what the differences are before I sit down and play it properly.
Yeah.
I'll kind of play it on like a relatively easy mode so I can just kind of get the story and see what is new or see what it's brought to the table.
There's a couple of questions. There's one from Jason Romeo Leisure, who's on Aliens Gateway Station on Facebook.
Okay.
He asks, are you ever going to illustrate a new Alien series?
Well, I mean, we've talked about it. Like, it's definitely, like, they know that I want to do it. And there was, like, Spencer tweeted something the other day, and he's like, because someone tweeted at them, I'd love to see, someone tweeted at me, I'd love to see you do another book, interior-wise. And I'd love to do it, but that's not up to me. That's up to Spencer and Connor, the editors. And Spencer and Connor both chimed in and were like, yeah, we know people want me to draw another Aliens book. Like, it was very kind of insistent. I felt kind of bad because I'm like, oh shit, like, I didn't mean to kind of, like, that wasn't me kind of putting that on them to go, hey, fucking give me another book.
Yeah.
That was just me kind of going, look, you know, it's all well and good telling me, and I love it, like, you know, it's great. Like, I do like that my stuff has resonated as well as it has. And this goes back to one of the first questions you asked was, you know, about how does it feel kind of being part of this. And when I'm being compared to Killian Plunkett, like, that's a big deal for me. That's a huge deal for me. And I definitely take inspiration from his work a lot. And there are definitely things in there in my work that I've learnt from studying his work as far as grime and grot and that sort of stuff goes. But we're going to get shouted out again by Rain.
Fuck you, Melbourne.
But yeah, it's one of those things. Like, at the end of the day, when people want someone in comics, particularly if they want someone to work on a book, or if they really want to support someone working on a book, the only people that have that kind of sway and power are the editors. It's up to the editors who gets put on a book. It's not up to us.
Yeah.
You know, we appreciate the support and the fact that people love what we do, but at the end of the day, you know, me going to Spencer or whoever else and going, hey, you know, like, let me do another Alien book. It's just, you know, it's like, I don't carry a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I'm not.
You got to give me his Twitter so I can harass him.
No, I don't harass him. Like, he knows. He clearly knows. I think they've got their fair share of emails. So there's been a decent amount of feedback from the book itself. And you know, I think honestly, when I did Defiance was that point where I finally felt comfortable enough in my work to actually kind of, you know, really kind of throw the ball in the ring and go, hey, I'm ready to do my own thing now as well. Beyond the Resistance covers and a couple of things that I've been talking to Spencer about doing, I've got a creator-owned book at Waxworks. I've talked to them about doing a few other things. I know a couple of Aliens guys asked, like, I kind of off the cuff once said that I'd really like to do At the Mountains of Madness.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure most people listening to this podcast will know, but it's a Lovecraft book set here on Earth. But if you watch Alien and if you watch Prometheus, up until a certain point, they're both at the Mountains of Madness in space.
Yeah.
So what I would love to do is At the Mountains of Madness in space, but as though the crew that made Alien kind of kept going down that road, and instead of making Alien, made At the Mountains of Madness. So you would still get this kind of Giga, Ridley Scott, Ron Cobb space thing.
Yeah.
But it would be straight up that story, rather than suddenly becoming 10 little Indians on a spaceship.
I love it. I love that idea.
That's a racially contentious thing to say, but the trope, the 10 little Indians trope. So, yeah, no, I would like to try that at some point, and I think Waxworks are pretty keen on me doing that as well, because they've been great creatively. But we'll see. Look, I'd love to do an Alien book, but the Alien book I want to do relies very heavily on throwing away a lot of continuity and ignoring a lot of continuity and basically picking up where Isolation finished.
So it can be kind of like a one-shot.
It would need to be a graphic novel. I'm not particularly keen. Alien, I feel like Alien is a horror book that has been hampered by the fact that people like to throw Colonial Marines at it.
Yeah, okay.
I think the Colonial Marines have their place, but as far as I'm concerned, they hamper a lot of the narrative choices that I would make.
Yeah.
I think Brian did a really great thing with Colonial Marines. I've seen other books that have done really great things with Colonial Marines. But I think once you start throwing a lot of guns up against a lot of aliens, it kind of dilutes the core of what makes those stories great.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that makes a lot of these stories great, and the thing that worked about Alien, is that it's about the people. You know, for a lot of that film, you're watching that film for nearly an hour before an alien shows up.
Yeah.
And it's very much about those people and the dynamic.
Stories are
Absolutely.
really established.
Yeah, and like you don't even get a lot of exposition about those things. And it's something that really bothers me about comics a lot these days is the amount of exposition that they feel they need to put in. You know, readers are smart; they don't need all of that. And if readers are dumb, they'll learn it. You know, they'll figure it out. They'll put their own spin on it,
Yeah,
and that's great too. Like I love people interpreting things their own way.
Yeah.
And I have a Predator book that I would love to do that is it ultimately revolves around them, and you know, this is because I told you about this off air. Like I have a Silent Predator book that I would love to do, and it ultimately relies on readers being savvy enough to kind of interpret things their own way and put their own spin on the narrative. Because it would just be predators talking to each other in predator language, which we don't understand. And Alien is like that in that you get given not a lot of exposition. You only get given the meat of what you need, and you're left to your own devices to deal with what else is happening. And that's what the beauty about the whole thing is. You know, when it came to Prometheus particularly, and when it came to the space jockey and everything else, it was kind of like, you know, there were all these unanswered questions. And you could formulate so many ideas about how the alien worked and the life cycle and everything else. And what bothered me about Aliens, even though visually it's a great thing, and it's a logical thing too, the alien queen spawning aliens is a great idea, but it's a very logical step. What I liked about Prometheus was that it completely threw the biology of that creature into the fan. And suddenly there were so many different ways that thing could work, and that's what I loved about it.
Because it opened up so many more avenues for creatives like you.
Exactly. You know, people shit on that movie because it's like, oh, it didn't answer enough questions, you know, that sort of shit. I got a million more fucking questions and no answers from that fucking movie. And that's the beauty of it. And Ridley Scott knows that. You can hear it in these commentaries. And, you know, that's what Alien was like. Alien doesn't offer up a lot of answers.
We
it gives
didn't
you
get an answer for the space jockey for God knows how many years.
No, exactly. And, you know, the Alien itself, at least as far as the context of that film is, it only makes sense on what it shows you. If you really try and break apart that creature as far as Alien goes, there's so many fucking questions. And you don't get a single goddamn answer. So, you know, it's beautiful in that regard, especially from a creative point of view, because you really can kind of go in a lot of directions.
I feel like Alien 4 and Alien 3, they kind of painted themselves into a corner.
Absolutely.
Ending Ripley's life, saying that there was no other xenomorph encounters in the time that
between the 200 years between Alien 3 and Alien 4,
exactly.
So, like, I kind of like that. What I don't like about a lot of the comics and a lot of the external storytelling is that it really does open things up and say, hey, there's a lot of these things. We've encountered these things a lot. What I really loved about Alien is that it was very isolated. It was this new thing. There was nobody knew about it. There was this inkling that maybe the company had some idea about it, and Prometheus obviously answered that as well. But Prometheus kind of answered that in a very roundabout way and said, well, there's kind of more to, like, you don't know what the company knows about this thing now that you know about Prometheus. So I think my core problem with a lot of the expanded universe type stuff is that a lot of it is very kind of wild and kind of very action oriented, and I understand why they do that. But, and this ties into why I think the only way I could make what I want to do work as would be as a graphic novel, is because Alien works so well because of its pacing, and you can't pace out that kind of story in a comic book unless it's a straight up graphic novel. Because there are certain requirements that publishers need per issue that they feel audiences need to keep going month to month. It's a cliffhanger every issue. And there was a mandate in Defiance that we needed to have an alien fight every issue. And that bothered me because it was kind of like, well, in Alien, there's not even a single alien fight. Like, that happens at the end. And that film created this whole thing. So, it's interesting. I've had a lot of conversations with editors and other creators about why that you have Aliens comics and not Alien comics, and it makes sense. Financially, it makes sense. But what I want to do, it would need to be a graphic novel. And it would all be about Amanda. It would basically be Isolation 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you rather see a game sequel, or would you be happy to do a comic sequel?
I would have loved a game sequel, but I think, like, for me creatively, there are things that I want to do that I don't necessarily know that they would do in the game.
You think, like, certain stories wouldn't transfer well enough?
I think there are certain ways that you'd have to tell. They're different storytelling mediums, and Isolation's very interesting because it is essentially a walking horror game. You know, you don't get a lot of weaponry. You can't kill the alien. You basically have to survive.
Yeah.
And in that way, it's very similar to a graphic novel and a narrative like that, in that, you know, it's slow and it's methodical and it has a purpose, and it's lumbering. It's lumbering in a good way. But yeah, like the story that I do want to tell, yeah, it relies a lot on Prometheus, and it relies a lot on a lot of other things that I feel like would be best done in a graphic novel. And I think when you think about games, like, games need to meet objectives here and there, like you have kind of fetch quests and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And that bogs down a narrative.
Yeah.
And I think Isolation did a great job of that. But, you know, you play things like Resident Evil and all this sort of stuff. It's like, fuck, why do I need to go and get a fucking gem? Why are they even using gems? Why do I need a playing card to unlock this fucking door? Just kick it in, you bastard. You know, I don't have time for this archaic diamonds, clubs and spades key system.
Yeah.
And Isolation dodged that, and you avoid all that in comic storytelling and in film as well. But there are things that you can do in graphic novels that you can't do in film, and I really wish a lot of publishers would capitalise on that more and allow for, like, just alternative timelines.
Well, they allowed that with Gabriel Hardman when he did Green Lantern, which was an amazing comic.
Well, yeah, I mean, DC has their Elseworld stuff, and that's great. Like, you know, I wish more publishers would kind of just take that mentality. And I like what DC are doing with their movies now, where they're not feeling the need to, tie all their movies together like Marvel does. They're kind of going, okay, we're going to let Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix do this standalone Joker movie. We're going to let Birds of Prey be a Suicide Squad sequel, and at the same time shit can the Ben Affleck Batman films, even though the Margot Robbie Suicide Squad Birds of Prey film wouldn't exist if it weren't for the Batman vs Superman stuff. So I like that they're kind of going, fuck it, let's just tell good stories, regardless of continuity.
I appreciate that too.
And I think that's what's missing in comics now, particularly when it comes to the Alien stuff, is that in the heyday of the Aliens comics, back when we had Labyrinth and back when we had Salvation, there was not a real concern about continuity. It was just good creators who were then, not necessarily all that well known, telling great stories. And the concern was telling a great story.
And now it's all about continuity, and it's just hampering the whole production process?
Not necessarily. It definitely hampers creativity, but I think it hampers potential.
Alright.
I get why they want continuity, and I get all these sorts of things, and a lot of it hinges on fans. A lot of fans want continuity.
Yeah.
And ultimately, they're the ones spending the money on these things. They're the ones that go out and buy it. So I get it from a financial perspective, but I do wish there was just a little more kind of short, let's just tell that story. That's a great idea. Let's do that. Yeah, and I think that's the only way I could really work the stories that I want to tell. And hopefully, Dark Horse, if they'll let me do them, or if they're open to me doing them, will be open to that as well. I feel like, the change of hands in Fox is a little bit that way now as well.
You are listening to Yutani, the podcast for all things alien, AI, robotics, sci-fi, and technology. Remember to subscribe to Yutani.studio and become a supporter on Patreon. Just head to www.patreon.com/StudioYutani.
On the same sort of line of questioning, Jason also wanted to ask, if you do another, what kind of designs would you like to add to the Alien universe?
I think...
Or in general?
I think what's there is perfect. I think the Alien that was designed and created for the first film is perfect. I think it's perfect. It's, you know,
so you just go with Big Chap?
I would absolutely go with Big Chap, but I like what Isolation did in giving it the double ankle. Like, there's a word for it, but I can't remember what it is.
I can't remember it right now either.
It's the horse ankles. So I quite like that design because it kind of removes it a little bit more from being human. But I would really, 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 really like to bring the Ultramorph into the picture.
Which Ultramorph? Because there's been a couple. There's one that looks like the Deacon and one that kind of is based on the Big Chap but bigger.
No, it's the bigger Big Chap.
The bigger Big Chap.
Kind of without, it sort of doesn't have a tail, if I remember right.
Yeah.
So that would be the one.
That would be epic. I really wanted to see that.
Like, I love that design. It's got the kind of bulbous head. Like, the front lobes of the head are kind of bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love. I would love to draw that. I would love to bring that in and just draw that in action because I've got very distinct ideas as to how that would work. And it would kind of be my answer as to how, what that kind of light mist above the eggs was. Yeah. And why it kind of created like a radio static and what the deal with that was. And a lot of stuff to do with engineer technology and just a ton of things like that. But honestly, I think the Alien design is perfect and I wouldn't change a thing. It would ultimately come down to the people. And that's what we were saying before.
Yeah.
I think Alien is all about characters. The creature is perfect, but it comes down to characters.
Alright. So, Jason also asks, what would you like to see in future comics? Like, if you weren't to do them yourself, or you do them yourself, would you like to see, like, David, the Engineers, any of those themes revisited or continued?
Well, originally with Defiance, like, I wanted... Because that's why... Like, Davis, if you break it down, if you have a look at the sketches I did for it, which I think are online, like, Davis is a pared-back version of David. Like, that's who I modelled it on. It's Fassbender's head. Just without any features to, any real detail, no eye colour, no hair, none of that. It's Fassbender's head. I had this idea at one point that, this was before we knew what was going on with Covenant, that the David AI had managed to transfer itself. And obviously there are other David models, and I wanted to bring them into the picture at some point, because I think David's a great villain. And Michael Fassbender's, like Amanda Ripley, very interesting to draw. He's a very handsome guy, but in a kind of angular way, maybe. I don't know. It's hard to describe.
Very understated.
It's kind of like if you look at the difference between a ballet dancer and like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very different aesthetic. And it's just kind of more fun to draw those kinds of characters where it's all to do with how they act and how their bodies, what their body language says.
Yeah.
So
I was the reason why I liked Davis, because I hate Working Joes. They're like
the bane
of my existence.
No, I would fucking love, I love Working Joes. They're terrifying. I think they're the single most terrifying thing about the Alien franchise.
They freak me out. I love all the androids. I do not like the Working
Joes.
But Davis, I love Davis.
I did a drawing of back when we were doing pictures for it. I did a drawing of a Worker Joe model. And God, they're so much fun to draw because they're terrifying, and they're terrifying in such an understated way. And I used to have nightmares about mannequin dummies.
Oh, really?
So they really resonate for me as how, like, that really blank mannequin look. Yeah. And I love a lot of Callum Watt. So I love a lot of Callum's design work for Isolation, and he did a lot of really great pieces where he had all these Worker Joe models, and some of them had these really bad 70s wigs on. And they looked great, like it really worked. And I'm like, I really want to do, like, I want to draw those guys.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily want them to be bad. I just love how kind of off-putting they are, even when they're benign.
Yeah.
So I would absolutely figure out every opportunity to put a fucking Joe into those stories as I could.
Yeah.
But as far as other people telling stories, like, there are so many creators that I would love to see do Alien books. I would love to see Killian Plunkett back on an Alien book, but he's too busy making money off drawing Star Wars guys. So how can you blame a guy for coming back? And I think his style's changed a bit too. I don't think him drawing an Alien book now would be the same as Labyrinth, and that's just natural evolution of art styles and creative things. What would I love to see? I hate to say it, but I think like all the really great stuff's been done.
Oh, that's controversial.
Like
some people really love like the most recent stuff, like Dead Orbit and.
Oh look,
like that.
look! I think Dead Orbit was great. I think I love Stokoe's artwork. I can't fault Dead Orbit, but I think like the problem with Alien is that you really have to do something drastic to break the mold.
Yeah.
And
because everything's been done before. There's kind of like a formula.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you go into the Alien story.
Absolutely. And that's what I want to try and, with my stuff, I would like to try and break that. I think the key in that is Prometheus, and I think the key in that is breaking apart the alien.
Yeah.
One thing I wish they would drop is weaponizing the alien. And I know Brian's doing that, but he knows my feelings on it. Vaguely, maybe, hopefully. Sorry, Brian. I just think they'll never be able to do it. I think weaponizing the alien is a fool's gambit.
Yeah, but at the same time, isn't that part of the hubris of the human race?
Yeah, but
think that they could control
absolutely. But we've done that. We've seen all that.
Yeah.
Like, that's my thing. And that's why I didn't like the way Blomkamp's film was going. Because it was going in that direction. And, like, the other thing is, too, it's like, fucking Newt died. Get over it. Hicks is fucking dead. Get over it.
I agree.
Alien 3 and David Fincher, like, I get it. Like, that movie scarred you. But in spite of all the shit that he had to deal with making that movie's fucking great.
Yeah.
So I really wish people would kind of get over the fact that Alien 3 did what it did. But yeah, it's the whole hubris and controlling the aliens thing. I feel like there needs to be a new angle. And what I quite liked about what Gabriel Hardman did with Dust to Dust was that he did try to bring a new element to the alien logic and the life cycle. In that, obviously, that alien that came out of the kid's mother had some kind of innate maternal instinct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that whole maternal instinct thing, I really dug. I thought it was a really cool idea. I mean, it was, I saw where it was going. And I don't think he made any bones about being coy about what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And visually, Gabriel's stuff is fantastic. So I like that Fox is willing to kind of take sort of gambles on those sorts of stories. I really wish, one thing I do wish is that there wouldn't be an adherence to continuity. Like I wasn't a huge fan of Fire and Stone and Life and Death.
All right.
But they work.
I liked the ideas that were introduced. I didn't like the AVP crossover part because it just became a little silly to me.
Yeah, I think Alien vs Predator runs that risk. It always runs that risk. Absolutely runs that risk. If I were asked to do an Alien vs Predator story, I don't know if I'd have anything that I felt was strong enough to put forward. I think I'd really have to think about it. I do have like an idea. And I talked to Brian about this ages ago. I don't know if he remembers, but basically the idea would be after Aliens, after they nuke LV-426 in the colony there, it would be this kind of Elseworlds thing where a Marine or a Weyland Yutani cleanup crew comes in to find out why someone blew the fuck out of their setup.
Yeah.
But Predators would come down as well because they're like, holy shit, what just happened there?
Yeah.
So it would essentially be not Aliens versus Predator, it would be Marines versus Predators set in the Aliens universe. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
So maybe, because I feel like them blowing up that reactor didn't deal with the alien threat. Like, I feel like it was just kind of a convenient way for them to get off and kind of deal with it and get out of there. I don't feel like that hive and everything is done with. I feel like there would have been more.
Yeah.
So, sure, maybe there'd be some aliens left in the colony or even in the derelict or whatever. But that Predator idea is separate to the alien idea because they both revolve heavily around the derelict.
Yeah.
in different ways. Like in the alien idea that I would want to do, the Hadley's Hope colony, it would eventually come to be, but not necessarily in the way that we see it in the film.
Okay.
So I would ignore aliens but take parts from it.
I see.
And I like those sorts of things. I love that we're seeing new versions of, like we're seeing the adaptations of the Alien 3 scripts that were never produced.
They're fantastic.
And like, I love Johnny Christmas's work, and I love what he's done with that book. I would love to do the Vincent Ward book.
Yeah.
If they ever got to adapt that, I've already put my hand up. I'm like, please let me do this. So hopefully, if they ever do get to do it, I'll be able to fit it in there and do it.
Yeah.
I'd make a couple of tweaks here and there, but visually, that's just such a stunning story.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a lot of sense, but visually, it's so beautiful that I've been so fascinated with it since pre-internet time.
Yeah.
That I would love to do that, but I would love to see more of that. I would love to see more. I'm not a big fan of Joss Whedon, but I would like to see Alien Resurrection done the way it was written.
Yeah.
And I know, everyone involved in that production is basically like, look, you've got a great director, you've got a good script, you've got all these really great elements, but none of them mix well together.
Yeah.
I would love to kind of see someone else pick up that script and look at it for what it was. Or even other versions of whatever else we've had. I would love to know what Ridley Scott wanted to do with Alien if he was offered the sequel.
Yeah.
Because he's made no bones about how disappointed he was that he wasn't asked to do that.
Yeah.
So I would love to know what he would want to do and see that done.
Yeah, I'd love to see the original sequel of Alien 3 that Ridley and James Cameron were going to do.
Yeah, exactly. Which they kept saying would take it back to the alien homeworld.
Yeah.
So that would be really, really interesting, especially now that we're kind of post-Prometheus, post-Alien Covenant. So it's a very interesting landscape for people to play with, and I just kind of hope that they feel like that's something they can do.
Yeah.
Not sort of get hampered by having to have a continuity and all this other stuff, and just kind of take risks again and tell good stories like they did back in the 90s. Not that they aren't now, but just kind of not worry about the continuity.
Kind of go back to basics.
Yeah. 6 issues, there's the story, let's tell another one.
Fantastic. All right. Mitch Mitchell, also from the Yutani Facebook
I know
group.
that name, yeah.
Yep. He asks, what did you envision the egg-morphing alien doing in the hive structure?
Egg-morphing aliens?
Yeah.
In the hive structure? They don't exist.
They don't?
They've evolved out, they don't need to. My idea with an egg-morphing alien is that an alien in isolation, pun not intended, it evolves differently. You're talking about an aggressively evolving life form.
Yeah.
And Prometheus kind of proved that straight out the gate. I don't like the murky area around the gestation period and how long it takes for them to birth and everything else.
Yeah.
What's evident is that it is a very quickly adaptive creature. So, and this goes back to what I was saying about the egg morpher and the differences between the pre-comic day digital comic that we did and the changes I had to make due to Alien Covenant.
Yeah.
So originally what I'd envisioned was that what everyone familiar with the brand knows as a big chap, it's a smarter creature and it's capable of acting as a hive mind for drone aliens. So I basically inverted the known kind of caste system.
Yeah.
So what was traditionally known as a warrior alien, which is Stan Winston's ones without the domes, are now drones.
Yeah.
They're mindless fodder that exists solely to protect the queen.
Yeah.
So if there's a queen nearby, they don't need a brain.
Yeah, they just follow orders.
Yeah, they don't need to be self-sufficient. They're there purely for the existence of the queen and the protection of the queen, like ants.
Yeah.
Like bees, like whatever fucking hive animal you want to throw out there.
Yeah.
The big chap, and the reason it has that dome on its head is like we see in Labyrinth, there's this whole other internal organ system, this sensory system, this brain, this whole lot that it develops because it has to act on its own. So originally, what we had in that story was a big chap that was capable of essentially acting as the brain for queenless drones.
Yeah.
Maybe it would eventually evolve into something that would become a queen.
Yeah.
But until the general kind of idea I had in my head was until a queen is genetically constructed within whatever setup it needed, a big chap type alien or an egg morphing alien would continue to egg morph until it had enough of a hive system set up to create a queen, or something that would then perpetuate the egg cycle. Something that could essentially lay eggs. Until a creature came about that wouldn't need that, there would be an egg morpher. But it would obviously need the biomatter present within humans to do that. And my thinking is that an egg morphing alien could do that with anything. But what's interesting about that whole setup is that Prometheus does two very interesting things in it. It hints at the idea that the alien existed before the engineers. I don't believe that the alien is a creation of the engineers. I believe that the engineers managed to find a way to weaponize an element of the alien, and that's what the black sludge is.
Okay.
So there are two ways, probably a number of ways that the black sludge can work. And the cargo that David had, and it was being developed in the installation in Prometheus, was a weaponized version. Obviously there is another version that they've managed to distill that allows them to break down their own DNA in a way that creates new life. And that's that hyper-evolving genetic element of the alien tearing apart an engineer.
And we see David mixing it in the short video after Covenant.
Yeah, exactly. So what he's got essentially is a virulent form of something that was extracted from, in my mind, the alien, because that explains the totemic imagery that you see, and that very distinctly alien mural that they do a very deliberate shot of with the glowing crystal in front of. And it's a total MacGuffin, like nothing comes of that. So, in my mind, and through everything that I basically extrapolated from Prometheus, Alien, and everything that followed, there is a core life form, and that is why the Deacon looks so much, it has physical similarities to what we know as the alien. And depending on the environment, it's going to look different. It's going to evolve immediately to that environment. And that's kind of a little bit as to why I think, or at least how I explain why the aliens in Aliens look different to the one in Alien, to the one in Alien 3. But they're all similar traits. There's always going to be a root shape. And that's why the neomorphs look the way they do. That's why all those aborted experiments look the way they do in David's lab. And that's why, like, the trilobite looks like a facehugger and all these other things. So there are root animals to all of this. So I don't believe that the engineers created these things. I don't believe that David created these things. And there's a whole thing in Covenant about how David, being an AI, even though he's an adaptive AI that went rogue, he is incapable of genuine creative thought. You know, he has to work with what's there, and he can develop from what's there, but he is incapable of a genuine creative thought.
Despite him thinking that he can create.
Exactly. He can create, definitely, but he can't. It's not creative. It's not a total invention. It's not a completely new thing. He's gone and he's created something, and I even say it. You know, it's there in. He's taken notes from bugs. He's taken the virus. He's taken all of these things, and he's mashed them together, and he's managed to reverse engineer to something similar to what I imagine the original alien life form would be like. And we see that with those weird eggs
Yeah.
and that are bigger and flower out more. We see that with those kind of weird spindly face huggers. We see it with the shape of the alien.
Yeah.
It's different, but it's very familiar. The Deacon in Prometheus is different, but it's very familiar. The Trilobite is different, but it's very familiar. There are all these familiarities. So I feel like there's a route there that hasn't been tapped into, that I want to tap into to an extent, but still leave enough kind of mystery there to keep people asking questions.
Yeah.
I hope we never get the answer.
Yeah, me too, because I really love theorizing. That's what my whole blog is about.
Well, that's what I think the whole alien thing is about, and that's what makes it terrifying. You don't know.
Yeah.
And I think once you answer those questions, you take away the terror of that creature.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people complain about that with Prometheus. They're kind of like, these big doofuses with these fucking, these engineer guys.
Yeah.
They're not scary. And it's like, well, they are. You're just not looking at them in the way that they need to be looked at.
Yeah.
They're terrifying. And a lot of people complain about how demystified Alien, but it really only kind of further mystified Alien.
Yeah.
And when you break apart Covenant mystifies it even more.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people are looking at things in a way that is it's kind of systemic in fandoms.
Yeah.
In that a lot of people tend to look at things the way they want to look at things, and I'm guilty of that. Like, I'm looking at things creatively the way I want to look at them.
Yeah.
But I think a big problem with fandoms and a lot of the backlash with The Predator, Predators, Alien, Covenant, Alien 3, Prometheus, is that, and it's never been more prominent than how it's been with The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
People feel like they have an ownership over these things, and they feel like they are owed something from the creators of these things.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you're a spectator in this. You're not owed anything. If you want to create, go ahead and create. Do that.
Yeah.
But you are not the creator of this stuff. You don't get to tell the creator of this stuff how it should be. You can say, I wish it were like this. That's fair. That's valid.
Yeah.
But you don't get to tell George Lucas how Star Wars should be, because he fucking created that.
Yeah.
You don't get to tell Ridley Scott how Alien should be, because while he didn't necessarily create it, he's very instrumental and probably key in what we know to be Alien as being Alien.
I personally kind of feel that David, in a way, is kind of an analogy of the mixture of Dan O'Bannon, Ron Shusett, Walter Hill, and David Giler, because they all pulled from ideas.
Yeah.
And they all kind of stole a bit from everywhere. And
and they make no bones about that either. Yeah.
They've admitted this.
Yeah.
To kind of make the Alien. So Prometheus and Covenant to me is kind of like a movie version of how Alien was created.
Yes. I think that's a really fair assessment. Yeah.
And that's kind of how I fell in love with Covenant, because of like David Slab, all of the illustrations, there's homages to Geiger, there's homages to Dan O'Bannon's original script.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to me, it's like it's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
It's very, very close up there with Alien.
Yeah.
Alien's gone and been my favorite again.
Okay.
I can't kind of see them separately.
Yeah.
They're very much alike.
They're too much alike, and that's my problem with it.
So what are your problems with any of the Alien movies?
I don't like Aliens because I think it's overrated. I think a lot of people put a lot of stock in it and how much better it is, and it's not. It's exactly...
What's your favourite Alien movie then?
Alien. The original. Absolutely. I think Aliens is completely overrated.
Yeah.
In that basically all it does is it just throws more aliens at you, and it gives people guns. It's exactly the same story.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same story. They go to the derelict, someone gets infected, the alien, in this case thousands of them, hundreds of them, sprout out of someone by accident.
Yeah.
They have to deal, they're outnumbered, and then, a bunch of them die, and it looks futile, and the only way they can do anything about it is by blowing the thing up. And then, when you think everything's said and done, everyone's safe, the fucking alien's there. You didn't actually get away. and then she blows out the fucking airlock again. It's literally, like, if you really boil it down, it's beat for beat the original film.
Yeah.
It's just got more guns and more aliens, and the problem with that, in my mind, is that it neuters what makes the creature scary. It kind of creates a new idea of what could make the creature scary, but when those things suddenly become cannon fodder and are so easily torn apart by a couple of guns, it's like, and don't get me wrong, there are some great moments in that film of tension. A lot of great moments of tension in that film. The hallway sequence, you don't even see a fucking alien, but it's a great tense sequence, and it's all just done through computer screens and people and them watching computer screens.
Yeah, and in the med lab when the face hugger.
Yeah, no, that's a really great sequence. But there's a lot of clunk. There's a lot of clunk in that movie, and it's like my girlfriend then was. I remember being acutely interested in seeing what she made of it. She really liked Prometheus. She really liked. We went and saw Covenant. She really liked that.
Yeah.
And I think she liked Alien, but she did not, very vocally, did not like Aliens.
Wow.
And what was interesting was sitting back and listening to her say all these things, because they were all exactly the same problems I had. And they're all like kind of logic problems. Like Aliens, my biggest problem with Aliens, if you take away alien isolation, which a lot of people don't have in the picture, Aliens falls apart when you think about the idea that in the first Alien film, they got pulled out of hyperspace, light years away from the derelict by a distress beacon.
Yeah.
They didn't shut that distress beacon off.
Yeah.
They got the fuck out of there when Kane got the facehugger on it.
Yeah.
They went in and they went out. They were in there for like a total of a few hours.
Yeah.
And then they got the fuck out of Dodge. And then they had to blow a ship up because they, broke protocol and Ripley was right the whole time. So you're seriously telling me that in this, what was it, Fleeing Aliens?
57 years?
57 years. I knew there was a 5 and a 7.
Yeah.
So you're actually trying to tell me that in that time, when the company knew about the alien and had probably tracked the Nostromo, because Ash would have been sending relays back, that in those 57 years, nobody else picked up on that beacon. That in those 57 years, Weyland Yutani did not go and check out the beacon again. That in those 57 years, Weyland Yutani set up a fucking colony right next door to that fucking thing, and nobody picked up the beacon. Like the Jordans didn't even pick up the beacon; they just stumbled across it. So it's like, when you think about that logic, Aliens immediately falls apart. And that bothers me the most. Like, Aliens should not have happened. And it's by, like, really kind of gross oversight that it does. So I'm completely with Ripley, and it's like, no, fuck you, like, you idiots. Why would I go back? Like, when you think about that, at least when I think about that, Aliens falls apart. And, there's a lot of clunk, like, particularly when the Queen gets on the ship. It's like, how the fuck did that happen?
How did she just get up into the landing gear? She's ginormous.
Exactly. What I put it down to is, like, he obviously tried to infer that when it collects that junk on the platform, because it makes this big deal about the fucking dropship hitting this random pile of shit on that platform. And it's like, okay, I guess the Queen was in that random pile of shit. But the last we saw, that elevator was still coming up. We saw the elevator get there, but never open, right? So you never actually saw the Queen kind of fucking run out and like make a grab for the ship. I guess the intimation is that it was in the junk and it got collected up with the landing gear in that junk. But it's really clunky. Like, it's as clunky as the egg being at the start of Alien 3. It's the same kind of logic jump, and I don't buy it. Like, and that was one of the first things my girlfriend said. She was like, "What? Like, that doesn't make sense. And it draws out. It's way too long. Like, it's really overindulgent.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much that could have been cut out. And not even the Jordan stuff. Like, the stuff on Hadley's Hope works. Like, that makes sense. It's all logical. But it's later on that it becomes bogged down and stuff.
Yeah. So
that's why I don't like Aliens. I think it's bloated. I think it's unoriginal.
A lot of fans out there would say this is a very controversial stance because there is a lot of anti-Ridley, anti-Prometheus and Covenant going on.
Yeah, but they just need to get over the fact that Hicks and Newt died. Like, that's really ultimately what it comes down to. I get so sick of seeing people complaining about these things.
Yeah.
Alright, so that brings me to Alien Threat, right? So, in my mind, you don't get anywhere progressively telling stories without doing, like, drastic things.
Yeah.
Like something bold. And killing off those characters, yeah, like, that makes sense. And it pissed people off because, and what I find really interesting about why it pisses people off is because they got so invested in those characters in the second movie. And Hicks is not that deep a character to be invested in. Bishop, not really either, and I love what they did with him in Alien 3. I think his appearance in Alien 3 is great. And even Newt, it was kind of like, yeah, I get it. Like, I get why this is a narrative through line for this particular story. But what everyone kind of identifies Ripley as being now, like this really strong kind of feminist icon,
yeah,
narratively, really only exists because of Alien 3.
Yeah.
Aliens is interesting in that she does still have a lot of weakness. There's a lot of human weakness in her in Aliens,
Yeah.
which is present in Alien. But Alien 3, it's very much like, I don't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah.
Fuck this thing, fuck everyone else, fuck me, fuck everything. Like, she doesn't give a shit. And what people recognise as being Ripley is absolutely and peak manifest in Alien 3.
Yeah.
And I don't think enough people kind of recognise that or give that credit.
Well, she has sex on her terms.
She's got way more agency in that film than she does in maybe Alien aside.
Yeah, well, she even decides that she wanted to choose how she dies as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a much stronger film than people realise.
Yeah.
And I think Newt had to die.
Yeah.
I think if you let Newt live, Ripley becomes superfluous. I think a lot of people really need to put aside this idea of, this kind of alternate future where Newt becomes the new Ripley and blah, blah, blah. Hicks is like the scarred veteran.
Yeah.
They're all tropes.
Yeah.
Like, they're old tropes.
Yeah.
There's nothing really that original about that. I love what the original Aliens comics did.
Yeah.
The Haydn comics did with that. They couldn't do that on film. There's no way they could do that on film.
Yeah.
It's a whole other thing. So, yeah, they're my biggest grievances. I'm not blind to the problems with the Alien series. Covenant and Prometheus, even Alien, they've all got issues.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to overlook some things in favour of other things.
Yeah.
Aliens just kind of presents itself as being a little bit too much the be-all and end-all, and it has too many faults to do that.
Yeah.
Alien, as far as, if you're going to argue that, Alien is the be-all, end-all. Everything else just followed in its footsteps, as far as that brand went.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my wildly controversial opinion regarding the Alien series. And a lot of that informs the kind of storytelling I would like to do. And I'm sure there's probably a lot of guys listening to this now going, oh, well, fuck this guy. I don't want him to do any more Alien books. I think the most interesting thing you can do with the comics and all that sort of stuff is sort of breaking away from those molds. And I think the comics have a very unique opportunity to do that the films don't because of money, returns, that sort of stuff. So hopefully, more and more people can kind of put aside their personal preferences and at least look at each story as it is.
Yeah.
Because I think the Aliens series has a lot that it can offer, but people are kind of too set in their ways about what it should be and what it shouldn't be, without really considering what it can be.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key thing there.
I feel like there is kind of like a split, like when Alien Blackout came out, for example.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people were like expecting an action sort of game, and when Alien Blackout came out, it was very like slow paced. Kind of like Isolation, but even slower. It put a lot of people off. Blackout's
really interesting because it really highlighted, at least what I saw of the response to it when it was announced as being a mobile game and what kind of mobile game it was. It's very interesting in that it basically highlights what the problem with people's expectations are, and this is why, like I've been through a lot sort of personally in the past year, and I've learned to set aside expectations pretty drastically. Like, expectations are your own worst enemy with everything. So I think more and more people need to just kind of fucking chill out and see what something is and experience something before they write it off. And Blackout was a prime example of that. It's like Suicide Squad and like that Fantastic Four movie that came out years ago.
Yeah.
I don't care what people think of them. Before those movies came out, people were shitting on them.
Yeah.
Really running it into
They'd already made up their mind.
Yeah, exactly. And then, lo and behold, Blackout comes out, and suddenly everyone's like, oh shit, this is actually really good. And a lot of people were, and there's always going to be some contrarian asshole that is always just going to be set in their ways and be like, yeah, I always thought it was shit, and it is shit. And it's like, yeah, sure, guy, whatever.
Yeah, I know a few of them.
Yeah, and look, they're always going to exist. It's unavoidable. But, it did something different. It did something interesting. And it was fucking addictive. I sat there, I'm like, and I beat the thing. I sat there for a good weekend just going at every given opportunity, on the train, on the tram after work, whatever. Just, having a go at it. And, it was tense. But I think that's that thing. People need to keep their expectations in check. And I get it, right? Like, people complain about the marketing. Like, people were expecting Alien Isolation 2 and got really disappointed when that wasn't announced. And there was that whole weird thing about, like, Hideo Kojima being with, like, the alien eggs at, like, the Games Awards thing, whatever that big thing was. And everyone was like, holy shit, they're going to announce, like, the Alien game. And, like, it even looked like they were going to announce that Colonial Marines game that's coming.
Colonial Studios.
Colonial Studios, their Marines game. Everyone thought that was going to get, like, a big reveal there. And it didn't. And then suddenly out of nowhere, people, like, they announced Blackout. And people thought the Blackout was the Marines game. And, like, I was guilty of that. Like, I emailed Spencer and I was like, is Blackout what... Like, this is this part of, like, all these things that we're kind of talking about at the moment? And he was like, I got no idea what Blackout is. So, it was kind of interesting from that point of view. So, I guess when I had that conversation with Spencer, I was kind of like, okay, I don't think this is connected to anything that we're doing right now. So I'm curious about what this is. But I don't think it's going to be a big thing. And I think that was the problem. I think I understand why Fox would want to advertise anything that they've got coming out. Why anyone would want to advertise anything they've got coming out.
Yeah.
A lot of hard work goes into those things, even if they're just, as some people complain, it's just the reusing assets from Isolation. Like, so what? Isolation's perfect. Like, of course you'd reuse assets if you could.
Yeah.
So a lot of people kind of complain about that, but you can't begrudge a company for wanting to advertise their product. It's your fault for getting your expectations out of line. What are your thoughts on
clickbait articles and kind of like websites kind of taking something that's flimsy information at best and kind of like catapulting it?
They're all part of the problem. They're all part of the problem. Right now, one of my biggest problems with, and it's why I'm not on Twitter as much anymore, it's why I got rid of my Facebook, it's all this fake news shit. a big part of it comes down to the rise of pop culture and the strength of pop culture in the mainstream online.
Yeah.
I mean, this is nutshelling it in a really kind of cobbled fashion, but social media was created by tech people, right?
Yeah.
Geeks, nerds, and there's a huge crossover between those kinds of guys and girls. Sorry, I tend to say guys is a gender inclusive thing.
Yeah, that's right.
So those kinds of people, that demographic, there's a huge crossover with that, with pop culture. You know, it's kind of part and parcel with this trope of, you know, Star Wars nerds being IT guys.
Yeah.
It's not really the case necessarily at all. It is commonly the case, but it's also commonly the case that Star Wars nerds are fucking high-ranking lawyers and other shit like this because they've got the money. You know,
yeah.
they like all these things. They spend the money on these things. But part and parcel, commonly, yeah, tech guys are into all of this sort of stuff. So there's a huge crossover between pop culture, fandom, and tech spaces.
Yeah.
And because social media and these tech spaces were created by these guys, there's an ownership or an entitlement from a lot of the perceived demographics that inhabit these worlds or are strongest and have their strongest communities in these environments, that they kind of dominate these things. So then you'll get places like Gizmodo and I almost did the quote fingers then, but like news sites that are nothing really more than blogs, glorified blogs that employ people, and not even necessarily employ, they trick a lot of, you know, high hopes bloggers wanting to get into journalism or whatever else, or internet journalism, entertainment journalism, gaming journalism, comics journalism, all this sort of shit. They want an in through these sorts of things, and you know there were huge things about a lot of these blogs taking advantage of a lot of these people and not paying people.
Yeah.
But a lot of these people aren't qualified journalists, and the problem with that is because so much of it is going online and so many people are going online, you're getting a lot of unqualified journalism. I nearly did the quote fingers again.
It's true, he nearly did.
You get a lot of this online journalism, so to speak, that is completely unqualified, and it's just a lot of op-ed shit. And that's why you get things like Suicide Squad being shat on before it even has a chance to, you know, prove itself. It's why you get all these people creating these, and you know, the clickbait is ultimately a part of that too. It's a byproduct of all of that.
Yeah.
They just want people to look at their articles. They want people at their website so they can get advertising revenue. And the best way to do that is to come up with a wildly controversial or vaguely intriguing question mark of a headline.
And most of these people have no connections to anyone in the industry or who are working on these projects.
Exactly. There's a website that I hate seeing quoted called comicbook.com.
Yeah.
And it's now treated like this fucking, you know, great source of news. And it's not. It's just a bunch of people. It's like Wikipedia. Just speculating.
Yeah.
You know, the number of fucking articles you could see right now about, like, as soon as a trailer hits, right, for, like, an Avengers movie, suddenly there's a million fucking articles that pop up speculating. It's like, just settle down and fucking wait for the movie.
Yeah.
Actually find something to report on. Find something interesting to report on. And it's why I find BuzzFeed really interesting, because BuzzFeed has kind of turned itself around from being a clickbait, you know, website that thrived on this shit, thrived on memes.
Yeah.
And is now, like, you know, it breaks a lot of pretty important news stories now, particularly regarding social justice and all this other stuff, like, you know, progressive news. It's like The Guardian. It is a problem where you get this crossover with fandoms and tech, and the people who more commonly than not write for these websites, and websites that are seen as authorities on a certain thing, Alien for example, they're not really run by anyone that's particularly informed.
Yeah. They're like casual fans.
Yeah, well, not necessarily even that, but even hardcore fans can be hardcore fans without being well informed.
Yeah.
They're so caught up in their fandom to things that their way, it's like their way or the highway.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of what happened with Star Wars. So yeah, I have a lot of problems and a lot of issues with kind of clickbaity things. And I love, there are like Twitter accounts that basically retweet a clickbait headline and will basically break it down and go, they'll just give you the nuts and bolts of what that article actually is without you having to read it, because it's just speculative garbage.
Yeah.
I follow
that Twitter.
Yeah, no, it's great. Even today, like I saw a thing about this whole kind of controversy right now about what Liam Neeson said about his friend that got raped by someone who happened to be black 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, oh, Liam Neeson's cancelled, right? And this whole cancelling culture right now drives me nuts. And I actually saw it in the headline of a Sydney Morning Herald article.
Wow.
I'm like, okay, we've now crossed that threshold well and truly. That threshold of this kind of bullshit internet meme culture has now crossed into what is perceived to be legitimate journalism. And look, if that person that put Liam Neeson is cancelled on their headline, or whoever decided to put that headline in there, and I know often that's editors, it's not necessarily the journalist themselves, but the fact that this kind of terminology and this kind of mentality,
that's accepted. It's
accepted, yeah. And that influences people. It's like when you read Herald Sun articles and how stilted they are towards the right.
Yeah.
The agendas become so much more obvious. But we're at this point now where the agendas and the signals are so mixed, and the Venn diagrams of people trying to communicate with each other are so separate but so numerous that there are so many voices trying to be heard and trying to have their way that it's just become this horrendous noise. It's a cacophony. So that's why I've withdrawn a bit from social media.
Because you're kind of known to be very straightforward.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. Well, I don't like mixed signals. I don't like people misconstruing things, and I'm very set in my ways. I'm open-minded. I'm genuinely open to thought-out discourse.
Yeah.
I love having my ideas challenged. I love having my thought process challenged because I think that's how we evolve.
Same. Yeah.
I love being right. Everyone loves being right, but I do love being genuinely proven wrong. And I'm more than happy to admit when I'm wrong. If someone comes to me and go, "You're wrong, here's why," I'll go, "Cool, all right."
Same here.
I apologise.
I think we will totally get along.
Well, we already do, so that works.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem now, is a lot of people don't like being wrong, and they don't like having their safe spaces encroached upon. And I think this whole kind of safe space thing has gone well beyond the point of being safe, where even safe spaces aren't safe because they're volatile to other safe spaces.
Yeah.
They become exclusive. It's like what started as this thing to protect themselves against like oppressive cliques, like that whole high school thing.
Yeah.
It's gone well beyond the pale now, and these things now basically become what they tried to protect themselves against.
I can totally agree with that.
So it's a very interesting landscape, and I feel like we're kind of on the cusp of all of that sort of stuff changing.
This episode is made possible because of our supporters on Patreon. I'd like to thank our longest supporter, Sarah Hall, our highest pledger, Lady Anne, who is also our highest lifetime pledger. And I'd also like to thank others such as Michael Andrews, Benjamin Scottford, Project Asheron, Zachary Rice, Daniel Cooper, JB, Zena Park, and Georgina Gray. Without your support, none of this would be possible. Thank you.
What would you like to see change in fandom in general, having been
More
experienced?
acceptance, yeah, absolutely. And not being so stubborn about things.
Or just like saying, you know, that guy's different opinion, I have a different opinion, that's cool. We still like the same comic.
Condescension is the thing that bothers me the most. Like, you know, I see people on my Instagram feed, you know, they'll make a comment and it's like, did you need to say that? Like what are you
I really love
contributing
your
here?
work, but I fucking hate Ridley Scott's Covenant or...
Yeah, well, not even that. Like, they don't even necessarily say how much they like my work. They're like, you know, I'll draw a picture of like a neomorph, right? And someone will just come in and go, I fucking hated Covenant. I'm like, okay. Like, you're more than entitled to that, but why did you feel the need to fucking spout that on my thing?
Yeah.
And why do you need to feel the need to argue with someone else on my thing? Like, that happens as well. It's kind of like...
It's immature.
It is.
Like, when it's a conversation, what I like about it, what I don't like about it, that's okay.
When it's constructive, yeah. When it's not, like, for me, it always needs to be constructive. And, you know, I'm not always, you know, I'm not perfect, right? Like, I've certainly said things that I regret online and offline. And, you know, I try now to absolutely be as inclusive as I can when it comes to other people's opinions and open to that, even though I may not agree with it. You know, that's their thing and they're more than welcome to that. So I would like to see more people kind of think about what they're saying before they say it. And I know that's a hard thing to do online because it's very immediate and that protective screen between them and the person they're attacking.
Sometimes it's a power dynamic as well.
Absolutely.
People love to bully or love to belittle other people with different opinions.
Yeah. And that goes back to what I was saying before about people kind of, you know, being really shitty about, you know, their idea of what a thing should be. And ultimately, it's not up to them. It's up to the creator. If you don't like that, that's fine. But you have no place to tell someone who created a thing how that thing should be. If you want to try and go for that job, go for it. But there's a reason you don't have that job. And I'm not saying that person's necessarily shit. They may have great ideas, but, you know...
And it's true, though, because most of these people have no idea how the industry works.
Absolutely.
What happens from pitch to pre-production to post-production to editing to marketing.
Yeah. And even
clue.
in like completely innocuous ways, like it's never more apparent than when people come forward and go, oh, you know, I'd really love, can you please do this? And it's like, I would love to, but you know, I'm not the creative body that I can definitely do that, but there are certain gatekeepers that I need to appease to let that happen. And that's always going to be the case. And you know, at the end of the day, you know, Ridley Scott is like, I know he sees a lot of this stuff that we have, you know, a lot of the comics and things like that. Whether he decides to adhere to it or not, you know, it's up to him. But he's the, you know, not to be crude, but he's the biggest dick here. And ultimately what he says here goes, even beyond him too. Like, he has to get money off the studios.
And the producers.
That's it. That, you know, there's kind of you know, those transformers that used to join together to make a big transformer? They're like a bunch of dicks that make a huge dick that are just big enough than they're bigger than Ridley Scott when they all join together. So, like, that's the best analogy I can come up with for those things right now. But it's, you know, it stands.
Super gay, but I love it.
It stands. And you know, there's that whole thing. I remember seeing you tweeted something not long ago. And I remember when I watched Covenant, when David is teaching Walter how to play music, and he goes, I'll do the fingering. And people, like, giggled in the cinema. And it's like, I get it. Fucking grow up, though, like, context. And, you know, I saw, like, a whole conversation play out online. Like, people are like, like, so gay. And it's like, okay, like, one, you're like, do you understand that you're being, like, blatantly homophobic here? And they never do. And two, it's like, well, yeah, that's what you call it when you play an instrument. Like, guitar, when you're playing a guitar, you are fingering a guitar. You know, it's you that can't get your head out of that context of vaginas or buttholes to, you know, really kind of run with things with some common sense. So I kind of do wish that people would kind of I guess just be more sensible.
Yeah.
And, sure, there's always room for jokes. Like, I get it. But when it's condescending, it's like, did you really need to do that? Did you really need to say that? Do you really need to be that way? Like, we get it. Everyone is aware of the problems in these things.
Yeah, I believe someone, I won't mention his name, but someone said, like, the alien universe died that day when that line was uttered.
I did see that comment. I'm like, that's debatable. To you, maybe. Like, as far as I'm concerned, like, the alien universe died, I don't know, with aliens. There are so many points that I could sit there and go, the alien universe died there. If I was going to be a dickhead about it, sure. But if you're not a dickhead about it, then you can let things like you can let people like Alien Resurrection. I know,
there's elements that I love about Alien Resurrection.
Yeah, absolutely. There are definitely things in there that are great. It's got an amazing design aesthetic. I don't like the alien designs, but I get why they are the way they are, and I can accept them for the way they are. And like that whole room full of the Ripley clones, the aborted Ripley clones, is amazing.
Yeah.
And I like the guts of what the newborn is, but I think the concept art did it better than the physical execution of it.
Yeah.
The idea is there in the physical execution, but it just didn't live up to the promise of the concept art.
I liked the comic version of the newborn.
Oh yeah,
because it worked for me.
Yeah. See, I would love to draw the newborn into a thing. I know exactly how I could figure out a way of working that design into the idea I was talking about before, where it's essentially Isolation 2, and it would use the Ultramorph and all this other stuff. I can figure out. This map that I made when I first came onto Defiance has through lines to everything. Every single film, even things that I didn't like I figured out ways to work them in and make them make sense. And it's a big document. Even when I gave it to Fox were like, "Holy shit! Like you've really." This was Josh Izzo, who's a great guy, lovely guy. Like he sat back, like he sent me an email. Fucking hell! Like you've really. This is something. And, I think even Spencer was a little kind of taken back by how deep I went with it. I know Brian was, but Brian was kind of like, okay, you clearly know a lot more about this than I do, so I'm just going to let you draw. I'm going to give you the scripts, and I'm not going to give you any kind of real mandates beyond things that I feel strongly about, because you clearly know what works in this, and I just trust you enough. And I love Brian for letting me do this. He goes, I trust you enough to let you draw things the way you think they should be drawn, because that is good enough.
Yeah.
There are things in all of them that I like, even though I may hate the film. I don't hate the film, I just don't like it.
Yeah.
And it's the same with Alien vs. Predator, it's the same with Alien vs. Predator Requiem, it's the same with all these things. I think at the end of the day, and it comes down to all films, I go into movies, books, comics, games, anything these days, relationships, job interviews, anything. If you go in and just kind of let go of your expectations, and if you can find one thing, even just one thing that you really liked about that film, then it wasn't a wasted experience. And that's just the way I look at things now. I look for things to like. I don't look for things to hate, because it is very easy to look for things not to like about something.
Yeah.
Very, very easy to pull something apart.
So you don't like this over-the-top culture where people are over-dramatic? Like I saw someone said they want to burn all the alien memorabilia because of Covenant.
Let them. Good. They don't deserve it. If that's what they want to do, they don't deserve it.
Yeah.
If they're going to go flying off into histrionics about it, fuck them. It's their money. There's this great thing right now called Comicsgate. I don't know how many people in the Alien fandom are familiar with Comicsgate.
I'm familiar with it, yeah.
Comicsgate, I'm sure some of them are probably familiar with Gamergate, but Comicsgate is like the fucking red-headed stepchild of Gamergate. It's like this vat-spawned half-brother. And it's ridiculous. Like, there are videos of guys cutting up comic books because of a social justice warrior agenda. It's like, you fucking idiots. What do you think superheroes are? They fight for social justice, and they'll cut up the comic book. I'm like, that's great, well done. That's you month after month you go out and you buy these fucking things so you can make a YouTube video where you destroy the fucking thing.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea how stupid you look? You're like, Marvel are going to go bankrupt, and it's like, well, no, they're going to go bankrupt because they're putting like Muslims into superhero comics. Miss Marvel's a Muslim girl. It's like, they're going to go bankrupt with these stupid ideas. And it's like, well, they're not, because you're going to keep fucking forking out your $5 every fucking month to buy these fucking things to destroy them on your YouTube channel. So good job being, smart with your money there,
or they
dickhead.
pay like the reservation price as well on top.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just stupid. Like, it really is. Like, as far as I'm concerned, those kind of over-the-top drama queens that ultimately just want attention.
Yeah, that's all they are. Attention seekers.
They're just attention seekers, and it's bullshit. It's all built on flim-flam. Like, it's nothing. There's no genuine intelligence to what they're doing.
I kind of became very sad when fandom the word started to represent those people, as opposed to people who actually are fans who go out and watch the movies and buy the stuff or the comics or support it in their own way and enjoy it.
Being a fan of something has a very negative connotation to a lot of people these days, and I completely get, as a creator and as someone who's been to these conventions and seen, been involved with things online, I get why that has a negative connotation now, and it's sad. It really is sad, because being a fan of something means you should like something.
Yeah.
And be accepting of things. And you can be a fan of something and not like something. I love the Alien universe, but I don't like a couple of movies in it. Big fucking deal.
Yeah. I love the original Ghostbusters. I didn't like the reboot or whatever they did.
That's fine. Yeah, look,
I watched
there
it
are
the other day and I was like, oh, okay, maybe it was my... I was initially like, it's nothing like the original, but it can't be like the original.
No, that's exactly right.
Because then it's be retreading the same ground.
What I think is going to be really interesting is seeing what happens with this official Ghostbusters 3, because I worked on Ghostbusters 3. Like, before the reboot happened, I was working with a director who I can't name, who is a lovely, lovely guy, who I think may have actually been outed or discovered through the Sony emails, but lovely, lovely guy, and has since done a couple of very successful films, one very recently. And, one of our biggest struggles was how would we make this something that is going to live up to the legacy of the first film. And it's a very hard thing to do. And there are expectations that do need to be met, but at the same time, we were kind of like, fuck those expectations. Let's see what we can come up with and really kind of do something that is in line with that original stuff that's new.
Yeah.
And still feels like that. And I know a lot of people who love the original Ghostbusters and hate Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah.
I love Ghostbusters 2. I love Ghostbusters 2. Is it as amazing as the first one? No. Is it funnier? Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely funnier than the first one, without being forced.
Yeah.
And I think my problem with the newest Ghostbusters is that the humour is very different, and it relies very much on a kind of set-up and punchline sense of humour.
It's kind of the way humour in cinema has evolved for this generation.
It's very post-Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
And it's very, I love Bridesmaids.
Yeah.
I think Bridesmaids is very funny. I think it's very clever. But it's good. The Ghostbusters is like Bridesmaids by Will Ferrell, but still being pretty safe for kids. Yeah. Because it needs to be. It's Ghostbusters. And I would not be shocked if the new Ghostbusters 3 is a movie about kids. It would not shock me at all if they were teenagers.
Have you seen the photo release of Sigourney Weaver in a Ghostbusters outfit?
No. When did that happen?
They did a group shot of them.
When? How long ago?
I got forwarded it on Instagram. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, please do.
Sure.
Yeah, I may have seen it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what the cast is like.
It's the original cast.
Well, no, with this new one, because obviously they're going to bring in, because Harold Ramis is gone, and that was our biggest stumbling block when we were working on Ghostbusters 3, was Harold Ramis died while we were doing this.
Yeah.
So suddenly it was like, well, shit, what do we do now?
It's supposed to be a continuation of the original series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And see, that in itself, it's kind of like, I'm curious to see how that plays out, but I know, suddenly there are all these fans, I'm not going to say fanboys, because it's both genders, there are all these fans who are suddenly like, oh, good, they're going back to the originals. But that doesn't mean it's going to be any good.
Yeah.
There are so many fans of the original film who fucking hate Ghostbusters 2. Yeah. What makes them think Ghostbusters 3 set in that universe is going to be any better?
Yeah.
I hope it is. I trust, Jason Reitman.
Yeah.
Because he's made some great films. And, he's right there at the forefront. What really actually bothered me was him saying, this is the Ghostbusters movie. I feel like I'm the original Ghostbusters fan. I get where he's coming from, but I'm making a movie for the fans. It's like, you really shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do that. You should make a movie that you feel is strong in its own merit, that lives up to what you see as being strong about the originals, and that inspired you about the original text to make that story.
Yeah.
That's what you should be doing. But that's just me. That's how I approach creative things.
Yeah.
If that's what he wants to do, all the power to him. And I'll be there opening night. I promise you I'll be there opening night.
Yeah, ditto.
And look, I laughed out loud a lot. I really like that Old Girls Ghostbusters movie. It's different.
I watched it on Netflix recently, and I had my husband kind of watching it over his shoulder in the background while he was playing Elite Dangerous on his computer.
Yeah.
And he thought it was really funny. The casting was great. He didn't even realise that Thor was in it.
Yeah, and see, he's great in it as well. And it's so over the top. That is so not what is funny. The humour in the original Ghostbusters movie, even in Ghostbusters 2 when it is slightly over the top, and Rick Moranis' character and all that sort of stuff, they're slightly hyper real, but they're not that over the top.
Yeah.
He's still very funny because they are still slightly more over the top than the original Ghostbusters stuff.
Yeah.
And there are lines in there when she gives them the price about the firehouse, when they go and look at the original Ghostbusters firehouse, and Kristen Wiig goes, "Fuck you!" That line is so well delivered. There's so many great lines and so many great performances in that film. It really is a shame that it suffered from this toxic fandom.
Yeah, I personally didn't like it, but I felt sad for people who really connected with the film.
Yeah.
And wanted a continuation of it.
I remember when I saw it a couple of times in the cinemas. The women that I saw it with really loved it. They saw a lot of really empowering things in there. And I didn't see anything in there as a guy that emasculated me or anything like that, so I didn't feel threatened by it. And if women are empowered by this film, great. If they're empowered by something, great. And more importantly, I saw a ton of kids come out of that movie wanting to buy proton packs and just, pretending to be Ghostbusters, playing Ghostbusters, boys and girls. I
saw so many kids dressed as Ghostbusters for Halloween that following one. It was great.
And, it's one of the great things, and I know Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd have said this, and Ivan Reitman said this, one of the great things about the original is that it got kids in playgrounds playing together. They would be teens going out there fighting ghosts, because anyone could be a Ghostbuster.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the Ninja Turtles where you only had 4 Ninja Turtles and the rest of them were bad guys.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like superheroes where there were good guys and bad guys. Someone had to be a good guy and someone had to be a bad guy. The ghosts were all imagination things. So kids would all get together and be Ghostbusters. And that's what was great about all of that. So I hope that it has that kind of resonance, and it really makes me sad that a lot of people feel like they own something of these things so much, or that they are entitled to something from these things that they have to ruin it for everyone else. Case in point, when I worked on Ghostbusters, when I worked on the Ghostbusters comics, it wasn't public knowledge at the time that I worked on Ghostbusters 3. However, when The Force Awakens came out, I had some fucking neckbeard ruin.
I had to explain neckbeard to someone because they weren't familiar with the slang.
Right,
Would you like to explain it?
So is a neckbeard's not an American thing? Is that not a thing?
Apparently some of them don't know about it, or maybe it was the Canadians that didn't know. Okay,
so a neckbeard, they're the epitome, I guess, of what you would identify as those kind of horrible, overly entitled white nerds.
Like basement dwellers.
Basement dwellers. It's a horrible stereotype, but there's a reason stereotypes exist. And more often than not, there is a portion of this stereotype that can't grow facial hair properly, but will try anyway. And I hate that this is kind of the go-to, but every time I think neckbeard, I think George R. Martin. Because that guy can't grow a beard properly.
Sorry, George R., if you're listening.
I've never read his stuff. I've never watched Game of Thrones. I've only seen a picture of him, and it's a terribly judgmental thing for me to say. He's probably a lovely guy.
I remember Fat Comic Book Nerd in Simpsons.
So he's a great example, right? He's a great example. And it's the kind of thing where, like, all the beard is on the neck, and the neck is kind of like there's no distinction between the chin and the chest. So unfortunately, it kind of tends to gravitate towards, you know, guys with you know, weight issues and that sort of stuff. And it really is a horrible stereotype. But I can promise you, as someone that works in the shop that deals with these sorts of things, the stereotype exists, and they are more often than not toxic. And you know, there's this whole thing now with like incel culture. You know, I think if I say incels, most people will know what that is.
Know what incel is, yeah.
And more often than not, you can draw a very direct line between what are commonly known as neckbeards, derogatorily known as neckbeards, to incels.
Yeah.
So that's probably the best way I can describe it. It's hard. It's kind of like trying to describe the difference between a bogan and like a redneck.
Yeah.
There's a very distinct difference. When you say a bogan here in Australia, you try to describe it to an American, it's kind of hard.
Yeah.
You need to give an example in person. So yeah, there's a lot that's wrong with fandoms, and I feel like a lot of those guys kind of need to, and it more often than not is guys. It's not always, but more often than not is. Sorry, going back to the case in point. So it was this guy who came at me on Twitter, and because a lot of people, we didn't get Star Wars The Force Awakens the same day the rest of the world did. The US got it, like, I think a couple of days before we did here in Australia. And a lot of people were kind of talking about it, and a lot of people were being very careful not to spoil things, but in doing that, and in kind of dodging around conversations, they were inadvertently spoiling things by not spoiling things. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, they were very clearly dodging certain narrative choices, or giving away certain narrative choices, they were giving away other ones. Or that they were narrowing the potential ideas. And I just have one piece of shit point blank tell me that, spoiler alert, but we're beyond the point, we're beyond that now. Han died.
Yeah.
Basically ruined every plot point for me.
Yeah.
And added a couple more of his own, just for shits and giggles. And he told me that was because, as someone who worked on the Ghostbusters comics, I did not do enough to stop the all-girls Ghostbusters film from happening.
What?
Yeah, like I had any say in that.
Fucking
Yeah, exactly.
C-U-N-T.
Yeah, exactly. And he was like, you know, all against reboots. And the thing that I found funniest about this was, like, this was a guy whose Twitter handle, his avatar, was him dressed as, like, the fucking 5th Doctor Who. Or the 6th, or whichever one the short guy was.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you are literally dressed as a guy in his 6th iteration of rebooting. And you are so violently against someone else rebooting one thing once.
Yeah.
Like, the irony is just disgusting. So yeah, like, that kind of thing is really, of all the things that we've talked about tonight, it's a real root problem of it.
Yeah.
Kind of toxic mentalities, and a lot of it boils down to male entitlement, male privilege, and white privilege. And I've seen, you know, black, Asian, you know, any denomination you want to throw out there, I've seen a lot of gross, angry, entitled fans. So it's not just white, but it is more often than not male. And, you know, this kind of gatekeeping and this mentality needs to be let go of. And
I'm
I don't
actually
know how.
hated in the alien community on some of the Facebooks.
Why is that?
Because I'm trying to be nice to people.
Right, and of course in that...
And accepting of other people, and that annoys the shit out of them because I'm not playing their game in the whole ostracizing everyone who has a different opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And of course I'm sure, given what the online world is like, and I think I remember you saying something about this on Twitter once, because you're a woman.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily know if also your race comes into it. But because you're a woman, online and these people get like this, I'm sure you've been, thrown all kinds of awful things.
I keep a folder on Facebook of screen caps of insults, threats to rape me and my daughter.
Oh my God, yeah, see?
Kill my mother. Just lots of stuff that I was like, I was just having a conversation about why Prometheus and Covenant are canon to me. Yeah. And if you don't want to, he was like, oh no, you can't choose both AVP and Covenant. It doesn't work. And it's like, well, I like both of them, so fuck you. Yeah. And he just fully went off at me. And I was
if I want to have a taco and put fucking chicken and beef in that thing, I'm just going to fucking do it.
Exactly. It's personal taste. And people get so offended. It's remarkable how angry people get.
Yeah, it is. And this is why, and I do apologise to the people that aren't like this, because, there are a lot of really great supportive people online and within social media and in these forums and everything else who, I wouldn't be doing what I do if it weren't for these people. And I'll always be tremendously appreciative. Like, I can't really put into words how much I appreciate that kind of support. It bothers me that I feel like I'm kind of ditching them and leaving them in the mud. But at the same time, I've through discussions with other creators and things like that, it's like I don't, I've got to look out. And, I go see psychologists as well. Like, it's
you got to look out for you.
That's it. And if something's not working for you, then you've got to figure out why, and figure out the best way to deal with that. And the best way I figured out to deal with that was to just extract myself from it. Have a way for the people that I appreciate to be connected, but without ditching them.
Yeah.
Because their support, obviously, as I said, means a lot, and I don't want them to feel like I've kind of gone, no, fuck you guys too. So, it took a little while to get there, but I tell you what, once you take a week away from whatever social media it is, fuck it, you do not look back. I can only access Twitter from work at the moment, and it does not bother me in the slightest.
On behalf of Studio Yutani, I would like to thank our community supporters: Perfect Organism Podcast, AVP Galaxy, Nostromo Files, LV426 Discord, Aliens Gateway Station Facebook group, and Project Acheron on YouTube.
Just before we wrap this up, I wanted to talk about what it was like working on Defiance as Covenant was being in pre-production. Is there anything that you're allowed to share with us?
It was tricky. Look, I'm sure I can share a ton of stuff. I'm not. It was hard. There were definitely points where it was hard. And the reason I think this is fairly well known. Like, the reason I wasn't drawing everything then was because I'm a very meticulous drawer. I think people can tell that just by looking at it. Which means I'm also slow. I need lead-in time. Originally, I had a fairly decent lead-in time on Defiance, but Brian was working on his American Civil War book, Rebels, and an artist had to take leave from that, who was meant to do the book that I ended up drawing. He had to take leave from that because of a family thing, and I took that up in my lead-in time to Defiance. Now, I like to build a lot of my stuff in 3D. I build all my ships and everything and all my sets in 3D. So I do need lead-in time. And that just allows me to keep continuity and keep detail and everything else. So that inadvertently kind of ate into my lead-in time on Defiance. And did issue 1. And that was fine. And then started doing issue 2, and then the Free Comic Day issue came up, and they were like, do you want to do this? we'd really like you to do it. Do you want to do it? And I was kind of like, I feel like I should do it because I know as someone who reads these Free Comic Day things in the past, like, it bothers me when I pick up a teaser for a book and the art in that is ultimately advertising that book, like extra, what was it called? Extra, whatever the Free Comic Day story was called, was ultimately an advertising tool for Defiance. So, of course, I wanted to advertise what the book was going to look like because the book was going to be largely my work. The problem with that was I took it halfway through the schedule for Defiance 2. So it blew out my schedule for Defiance 2 because we had to patch the Free Comic Day story. And that's why the Praetorian, or the Big Ugly as I like to call it, that they made the figure out of, is in the Free Comic Day story and the issue 2 story. Initially that was going to be a queen too. They wanted to throw the queen in at issue 2 and I was like, nah dude, tease the queen out. Don't give them the queen straight away. But because that blew my schedule out, it blew my schedule out for the rest of the book. So I got to issue 5 and 6, and even with the lead-in time on that, my schedule was out. So that was a real hard pill to swallow, but it was a learning experience, and everyone was really great about it. And at the time, there wasn't sort of too much difficulty beyond that. The only other thing was that, we had this kind of hands-off thing with the big chat, which bothered me a bit. And we wanted to include Amanda Ripley a lot more. I think there was a trajectory originally to go to 6 issues and eventually kind of phase Zula out. And switch her out for Ripley. I think there was a kind of vague discussion about killing Zula.
No, I love her.
No, well, that was the thing. People really resonated with her, and that idea went out the window. The idea was to kind of do a Ripley in that she kind of went out in a big way, and it would help essentially turn the tide against the aliens. But the ending we got is a great ending. And I'm really, really curious to see where the rest of Resistance goes. I've deliberately kind of held off knowing a lot about it and reading beyond what I need to know to do the covers. Because I like reading these things as they go. But there wasn't a lot of interference. There wasn't a lot of issue. There wasn't really much drama. It was really, really smooth. And honestly, it was one of the best things I did creatively. Because it allowed me to be comfortable enough with my scheduling and how I operate as a business in that industry, how confident I am in my work, a ton of things. And Defiance really was the best thing that I could have done. And it's funny too because I don't know how many people know this, but like Nicola Scott, who is a fantastic artist and a DC illustrator. I was up at her place in Sydney because I was invited to Mad Max premiere because I did the Mad Max Furiosa comic. And I invited Nicola to come with us and had our minds blown by that. I remember talking to her afterwards about what was going on because that was another seat of the pants thing. Furiosa was really nightmarish. In a good way. There were ups and downs throughout the whole thing, but my computer essentially died halfway through and I was drawing digitally. So, it got a bit frantic, but we got it done. And I remember saying afterwards to Nicola, I'm like, I think I'm done with licensed books. The only way you could get me to do a licensed book now would be if it was an Alien book. And if I'm not writing and drawing it all, together, it would need to be a really fucking good writer for me to say yes to it. And no shit, that day I got the message from Brian over Twitter saying this is what I've just been offered and I really want you on board.
Whoa.
So it was really weirdly kind of serendipitous.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was crazy. So it was kind of one of those meant to be things, I guess. And I'm still of that mentality. If Brian wanted to do a book together again, I would absolutely do it. But I'm kind of at a point now, and I'm making a point of telling people this, that I can write. I spent years writing Ninja Turtles. I wrote Mega Man. I wrote all these other things. I've written stuff. If I'm not writing and drawing it, chances are I'll probably say no. And it's been great because a lot of people have been really accommodating for that. I had an Aquaman thing lined up that would have been really, really cool, and I'm not a big Aquaman fan, so I had to find a way to like that and do that. And the editor liked my idea enough, but then he ghosted me, and I'm like, oh, okay. Well. But yeah, a little bit. But that happens a lot. It shits me. That's part of the industry, but Spencer's great. Spencer's really upfront with communication and everything else, so I appreciate that. But a lot of editors just kind of ghost you out. And I get it, Aquaman, it's a record-breaking movie now, and they were pinning their hopes on that movie a lot, given how much the vitriol against Batman vs Superman and Justice League was. Yeah. So, the whole Aquaman thing shifted, so I understand why it was kind of phased out of that, but it would have been nice to have known why. But I appreciate that they were willing to let me write and draw it. And, Spencer's the same now. He's kind of like, if we need to get you a writer, we'll get you a writer. But hopefully I can kind of get these things off the ground on my own.
It's a lot of work though, because you said you're a slow worker.
It is. But this is my thing with that. Is it's like, well, look, it's faster for me because I know what I'm drawing.
Oh yeah, okay.
When I don't need the script for myself. With my creator-owned things, I'm drawing it straight up the gate. Like, I'm not writing it. I've got it in my head. I know how it plays out. I'll write notes. Yeah. And I'll write some script things here and there. But generally I'm just going straight into drawing it or roughing it out and then doing the storyboards with the thumbnails and giving them off and then having notes. But yeah, I will need to script these things, but it's easier for me to script it and give it to myself rather than wait for an author to send me a script. And I had a few things where I was waiting on scripts. Two big reasons why I walked away from the industry when I did was because two jobs that were meant to happen at a certain point of the year that I was kind of banking on financially didn't happen for months after they were meant to happen. Yeah. And I had to go and find work. I had to go and find a day job, which, is great now because it gives me the creative freedom to not worry about that kind of money. But it killed me at the time. And it basically led to the mental breakdown that I had at the time. And I saw the writing on the wall, and I didn't act fast enough to do anything about it. And I have a lot of regrets.
It's hard for creatives, though,
absolutely,
isn't it?
And I felt like I had an obligation to see these things out. I didn't want to take up another job and then suddenly have these things come together when I'd signed contracts for these things. Yeah. I very much try to be a person of my word. And when you've signed a contract, that's a pretty fucking big deal. So I didn't want to be that guy. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I did something that's essentially worse and fucking quit the book halfway through. Yeah. Which is like a big no-no in the industry. That's like, I'm a little surprised, and I'll always be really grateful to Spencer that he did reach back out. Yeah. And we had a really great conversation about what happened then. So anyone else, they would have just fucking written you out of the industry. So I'm really thankful to Spencer for that as well. Beyond those sorts of things, Defiance itself was not an arduous experience. It's a shame. I regret not being there for the whole book. And I did sort of say, hey, let me do one of the last issues, because I know they were rotating a lot more at the end. Yeah. But I'd kind of done some damage then, and they weren't willing to roll the dice. And I get that. We're back in business now, and I've got my own things happening. And if I can get, an Alien book off the ground, Alien, singular, off the
Alien?
ground, no, then I would absolutely love to.
I think it'll be the first of its type, because there hasn't been anything since the Alien illustrated story, comic book wise,
there was the Isolation one, the one
true.
shot. But that was never released kind of generally. Yeah. But beyond that, and it is a thing, and it needs to be done a certain way. And, the only way I could really see it working is if they released it as a graphic novel and did it digitally. Yeah. release it sequentially digitally, or find ways to break it up and syndicate it digitally, but just drop it as a graphic novel.
Yeah.
And let it kind of breathe that way. The Predator thing that I want to do, sure, do it as a series. I can figure that out. That's easy. But even that's got its own risks in that I want it to be silent, and I'd want it to be about sort of 6 issues.
Yeah.
So that's a long book to do a silent story.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of visual stuff.
Especially because a lot of the themes that you want to touch on.
Yeah, like there's a lot of stuff in there.
There's not going to be a lot of room for cliffhangers constantly and
No. I mean, I've got it figured out. Like, I can do it. Like, I know what I want to do, and I've just got to put it together and see if Spencer's interested, and if Fox is interested by extension of that. And, I'd love to do female Predators. I think that's an area that hasn't been touched upon. I know people have very strong feelings about that. But I can tell right now that I would probably piss a lot of people off with the ideas that I've got. But that's what I was saying before about story progression and putting ideas on the table. You don't get anywhere without putting these ideas out there. So, and what's the worst that can happen? The book gets published. Someone decides to do something different with the next one.
Yeah, exactly.
The book still exists. So that's ultimately my end game. I just want to tell the story. I want to tell a good story.
You were telling me that you were privy to some of the stuff in Covenant's pre-production.
Oh yeah.
Because of the sort of stuff that you were doing for Defiant and how it could affect the story.
Well, it was sort of more to do with because it was filmed here. Obviously, we've got all these connections here. So I used to work in film and television, and that's what I studied. And I've got all these friends who work in film and television that worked on Covenant. Yeah. So I got to see, because I was working on Alien books, I got to see all these really great behind the scenes things, because we'd just trade things off. And I wanted to try and see what I could work Defiance to suit Covenant. So when Covenant, whatever mythology I could draw out of Covenant while it was in pre-production, I could try and work into that map that I'd figured out. Yeah. Because I hadn't seen Covenant at that time. I knew very little about Covenant. I wanted to know as much as I could to figure out our Defiance roadmap. Yeah. So that when it all came together, Defiance wouldn't contradict. I'm doing a lot with my hands right now, which is useless. But it wouldn't contradict. Defiance wouldn't contradict Covenant, and Covenant wouldn't contradict Defiance. Whether you decided to take one into continuity or the other was completely up to you. But I like the idea of everything kind of coalescing very well. But I got to see all kinds of cool shit. Like, I saw. I'm not going to say how, but I got to see. The whole sequence, like effects shots from the cargo bay at the end, the final act. I got to see the chest burster. I got to see all kinds of shit from the lab that you never saw on the film. So many drawings, like all the stuff that you see in David's book now, the book that was just released. I got to see a ton of that. Wow. And that's stuff that I'd like to work into the idea that I've got, the Amanda Ripley thing, all of that sort of stuff to do with Shaw, because I think it's stunning, and I really wish they had it. And I was told that a lot of the reason they didn't put it in was because I think, if I'm remembering it right, and I apologise if I'm remembering it wrong, if I'm getting facts wrong or around the wrong way. I think Fassbender was really put off by one of the sculptures that they did of Numi Rapace.
That's right.
He couldn't actually physically be in the same room as it. Yeah. And they did tweak it quite a lot to make it a little less grotesque. But even Ridley Scott was looking at some of the sketches that Matt and Dane put forward and was like, no, we cannot. Like, this is too much. This is perverse. This is really off. And there are some that I'm pretty certain I've seen that weren't in that book. Yeah. And they were really, really pushing it. Yeah. And I would love to get some of that stuff in there, because it really is great. But it's absolutely stuff that I understand why they didn't put in the film. Yeah. I kind of thought a little more of Michael Fassbender. It's like, come on, man, you're an actor, and it's a dummy. Like, it's not sacrilege, right? Yeah. Like, there's worse things that you could be looking at right now. But yeah, so I was privy to those sorts of things. That was really cool. And it sort of informed what I did with Defiance a little bit, but more in sort of a creative sense. Not necessarily how I was drawing things. Though I do really love the design of the protomorph, whatever you want to call it.
The Covenant Xenomorph, I think, is the official.
So the Covenant, I like David's creation. That's what I'm going to call it. I'll call it David's Alien. So I really like the aesthetic of David's Alien. I love how aggressive it is. Like, I just love that it just fucking goes hell for leather.
Yeah.
And I love that it survived the fucking jet burner. And that for me, that
was a really cool part.
I'm 100% convinced that the alien that gets blown out the airlock at the end of Alien is not dead.
It's still alive.
Yeah, and that's a big part of the idea that I got.
Hibernating. Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to say how or what it's doing, but that's a big part of it.
That means the Queen could be alive too.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. and that's a big part. Like in Verheiden's Black and White comic, that happens. You see that Queen tumbling around in space, and hypothetically, what could have come of it?
Yes.
So I don't believe that, given what you see in Covenant, that some kind of Frankenstein version of the alien, if that can fucking just tear through fire like that, and it's not really biomechanical the way Giga's design was, the big chap was. If that thing can tear through that with its kind of musculature, then there's no doubt in my mind that other one at the end of Alien survives the cold vacuum of space and that jet blast. Even though Ridley Scott says it's dead.
Yeah.
That's my one thing that I'll kind of go against Ridley Scott on. Just for creative purposes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it informed things. It was great to see, but I wasn't going to kind of bend to that because I like things to be creatively their own thing. But when it comes to this too, I realise there is an onus to kind of make sure that it meets certain prerequisites. And that's the same with all licensed things.
I also want you to share with the listeners as well your theory on the black goo. Because I thought it was interesting. We were having a
when we were talking off before. So I don't know how much I want to give away because that's intrinsically part of my thing as well.
Just tell what you feel like you can tell.
Okay, so I don't believe that either David or the engineers created the alien, and that the black goo is a byproduct of the alien. It does not make sense. There's so many visual cues in Covenant and in Prometheus. And there's so much stuff that follows in the other Alien films that it does not make sense for there not to be an alien prior to Prometheus, prior to the engineers. I feel like the engineers saw an opportunity in the alien, and they essentially did what humans have been trying to do for a very long time. Whether it was to any success or not is yet to be seen. But I feel like they managed to somehow weaponize a part of the alien or monopolize on the creature to benefit themselves. And that's why the engineer that comes out of hibernation at the end of Prometheus has the biomechanoidal body instead of the spacesuits that you see all lined up in Covenant and in Prometheus. I feel like that was kind of something that they'd done and adapted from the alien to suit their own purposes, to kind of further their technology.
Yeah.
I feel like they've got, and it's evident in the films themselves that they have a biomechanical nature, and that their technology is all biomechanical. And I think that they saw an opportunity in the alien creature to capitalise on that and further themselves. Kind of in a similar way to how in the Predator, the super predator is essentially, or there are a group of predators going along and basically taking cells from superior creatures from other planets and genetically modifying themselves.
What did you think about that story take on the whole thing?
Oh, it's silly. I didn't mind it.
Yeah.
It's tropey, like the autistic kid thing. And I know, like Shane Black is apparently somewhere on the spectrum, and I think his son is as well.
Yeah.
Or kid. I don't know if it's a son or daughter, but he was playing that up, and I thought it was fun. I thought it was a perfect sequel to Predator 2.
Yeah.
It follows those footsteps very well. There's some things that I don't like about it, but I had more fun than I didn't.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, it's a win.
Yeah. The suit at the end?
No, I didn't like that. I didn't like the ending.
Neither did I.
I don't think Fred Decker or Shane Black weren't necessarily like the ending either.
There was quite a few different endings that were kind of thrown around.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know if I liked any of them.
Yeah.
I would love to actually see the original script, because I remember seeing, screenshots of, multiple predators in tanks with humans fighting this big predator. So I would have loved to have seen that.
The emissaries, yeah.
Yeah. So, it's kind of the same with Alien. I think the engineers have some kind of reverence for the creature, and that much is evident in the murals in the in the headroom and all that. When they see that one particular mural that they linger on just that little bit too long, that has all the has the facehugger imagery from the original Giga mural.
Yeah.
It has all of that imagery in there, and that's deliberate. Ridley Scott's not an idiot. He puts these things in there deliberately. The space jockey was put in there deliberately. There's a reason they didn't go back to it. So, I'm pretty firm in the idea that the alien existed before either of them, and there's a whole side to it that we haven't necessarily seen. I don't even think I don't think the big chap is necessarily the purest form of the alien. I think it's my favourite form of the alien that we've seen so far.
So you think there's an even purer form that could be possibly out there?
I think absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what that looks like. I've got a vague idea of the shape of it because we've seen the shape of it so much, and I've got a vague idea of how its biology works because we've seen that so much. And to be honest, I think the Queen alien is kind of one of those freak mutations, kind of like what I was talking about before, where the idea I had with the evolution of the aliens, if you have an alien in isolation, you get the big chap. If you have an alien around a queen, you get the Stan Winston ones without the domes, the ridge top ones. And their brains develop differently and everything else. I think they're they're these kind of hyper-aggressive, virulent things that will evolve aggressively and adapt aggressively to whatever environment they're in. And the queens are just, they might not even be a commonplace thing. It could just be this kind of one freak mutation that happened on LV-426 because of whatever fucking batch they cooked up in the Juggernaut that crashed there.
Yeah.
So that's why I think this kind of idea of caste systems is a little limiting.
Yeah.
And why I admire the design of the Alien Queen, but I think the creative choices that were taken in Prometheus with the engineers were much more inspired than a Queen alien and the Hive system.
I'd be definitely interested in what Ridley's iteration of the Queen, or whether it's something other than the Queen.
That's what I was saying before. I would love to have seen what he would have done as a sequel, because I think that would have been really interesting. I would have loved to have seen what Dan O'Bannon and Ron Shusett would have done as a script sequel. I think Dan O'Bannon's kind of mentioned what he would do. I don't know if Shusett
he had a hand in AVP, didn't he?
He did, yeah. And
that's why we see the repeated theme of the pyramid, because that was in his original.
That's right, yeah. But even that's like Mountains of Madness stuff.
Yeah.
I'd need to go back and really have a reread and re-listen to things, because I know he's talked about that sort of stuff before, and I know he had ideas for a sequel. I think he even wrote up a treatment, but I don't know. I mean, I respect Dan O'Bannon, but I've seen, I don't like a lot of his other work. And I think that, he's a little bit like Dan Aykroyd in that he has these great ideas, but he needs someone else to kind of level him out, which is why Ghostbusters works. Like, when you read the original Ghostbusters screenplay, it's off its tits. It's just nuts. And
I haven't yet.
The original Ghostbusters 2, which not a lot of people have read, was insane. The original Ghostbusters 3 was pretty off the wall. It was a great idea. It's probably the most Ghostbusters out of, like, as far as what we know as Ghostbusters, it's the most Ghostbusters. Again, using quote fingers there. But, like, the original Ghostbusters 2 was like this crazy kind of, like, fairy tale, like Hellboy 2. Hellboy 2 was very, very different to Hellboy 1, and it was very kind of like Fantasyland stuff. At one point in Ghostbusters 2, I think Dana turned into a pig because, like, elves turn her into a pig or goblins turn her into a pig.
Wow.
It's very kind of fantasy and Darby O'Gill and the Little
Seems
People.
very Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, well, exactly. Like, it's the closest analogy I could draw to it was like Darby O'Gill and the Little People, like leprechauns and kind of that sort of mythology. Really kind of folklore-y rather than ghosts, which I like. It's interesting, but it's very clear that Dan Aykroyd needed Harold Ramis to balance things out. And I think it's kind of the same with Dan O'Bannon. I think it's the same with a lot of writers. I think a lot of them kind of need another voice to come in. And that's why I love comics. Comics are great because you have someone to come in if you're collaborating. And that's why I love having an editor, is because I can go to my editor and go, hey, I got this idea. And then they'll kind of look at it as an editor and go, this kind of doesn't work. Or how do you explain this? And they'll make you think about other things. And I love sitting down in like a workshop situation with other creatives and doing the same thing. And even non-creatives, like, again, you know, my girlfriend at the time really kind of changed the course of a story that I wanted to tell for a very long time. And I couldn't figure out an adequate way of ending this thing, because it basically has a moment where it's kind of like a take on Red Sonja. It's my kind of commentary on sort of sword and sorcery stories involving women, like female protagonists. Female protagonists sounds so sterile, like involving women. And it ends with, or like in the final act, the main character basically self C-sections because she has to get something out of her. And my girlfriend at the time was like, you realise that's like 7 layers of skin that she's got to cut through, right? And I'm like, I had no idea. I mean, I knew it was thick, but like, because she had a C-section. So she was like, no, this is what that involves. And if she's doing that on her own with a fucking sword, like, she will probably die. Like, that's a full-on thing. Like, magic aside, like, that's a full-on thing. And so she, you know, inadvertently completely changed the course of that. And that, you know, that's like a non-creative... I mean, no, she was a creative person. She is a creative person.
But the information was from a factual point of view.
Yeah, it was from a different point of view. And I think that's the thing. I think, you know, a lot of people need that sounding board, and I need that sounding board. You know, maybe I don't, but I appreciate that sounding board. I think stories are stronger for those sorts of things. I think Covenant might have been stronger if it had a better sounding board. I think Prometheus might have been stronger if the sounding boards had been a little better. John Spates is a lovely, lovely guy, and I love that first script. I kind of get the impression he was like a little like hard. Like, they kind of went, okay, you're over there now. Like, they kind of left him out a bit. And I think a lot of his ideas were really, really great. And who was the
Damon Lindelof.
Yeah. Like, I feel like he's a good ideas guy, but I don't think his follow-through is always great. And I think if there had been more collaboration between the two, it would have been a lot better. It feels like Lindelof was brought in the 11th hour and wanted to redo a lot of what Spates had, or felt he could do it better, or felt it wasn't good enough. I don't know. But I feel like if it had been a little more collaborative, it would have worked better. And I think that's also why James Cameron's stuff didn't work, and why I have a lot of problems with James Cameron's films. I think Terminator is a great film. I don't have all that many problems with Terminator. And I think that's the best thing he's ever done.
You don't like Avatar?
No, hate it. It's just Pocahontas.
In space.
And I think the designs are really uninspired. They're inspired, but they're boring. Like, they're kind of too much. And it's kind of, you've just kind of taken a fucking tiger, given it 4 more arms, and fucking smashed it with a butterfly. And you've coloured it differently. Like, it's not really... I feel like I've seen this in a video game recently. A lot of Avatar felt like I've seen it in a video game, and the rest I read in Pocahontas. And it was really, like, unobtainium. I realise it's a real thing, but get fucked. If you can come up with these ridiculous fucking animals and this whole setup, come up with a better fucking mineral name. And you know, everyone loves Terminator 2, but I'm like that movie just like it's useless. Like that cycle will never end. The Terminator cycle will never end. You cannot stop Judgment Day from happening ever.
Yeah.
So the whole film is it's an exercise in redundancy. Terminator is perfect if you just leave it at that. Terminator 2 has a lot of great stuff in it. Don't get me wrong. And I loved the shit out of that movie when I was a kid, but I knew the logic didn't stand up.
Yeah.
And I can't really watch it all that much these days. I can appreciate it, but the logic doesn't hold up.
I couldn't watch the most recent two. They just...
I couldn't get through the newest one.
No.
I don't mind Ideas in Salvation, and I like Christian Bale, even though he had the meltdown on that set. I don't like Sam Worthington. I thought he was really weak in that film. Yeah. But there's a lot in that film that I do like, and I can deal with. And I actually really like Terminator 3. In spite of like the fact that it becomes very self-referential and tries to be funny. I like a lot of Terminator 3, and I like that it acknowledged that you can't stop it. And like I like Nick Stahl, I think he was really good, and even Schwarzenegger was really, really good in that film. But yeah, I think Cameron needs a second person there. Maybe he has it and he's not acknowledging them, which is fucking dick move number one. But you know, if he doesn't, I think he would possibly benefit from having someone else there. Yeah. And I think it's the same. Like what I really like about Ridley Scott is that he encourages other people to bring ideas to the table. He sources other people. He says, "I have an idea. You're a creative person. Let's create." Yeah. I just think maybe, if there had been a little more kind of collaboration between the writers on those films, we would have seen I guess a little more kind of cohesive thing. But yeah, I've gone wildly off tangent. You know. It's okay. But it was interesting all the same. So yeah, that's my thoughts on all of that stuff.
Is there anything you'd like to say in closing in this like very full-on dramatic afternoon of recording with me, where we've had rain and... Oh,
it has been full-on. I completely forgot about that.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, it's been great. Look, I could talk forever about Alien. Like, there's so much stuff in there that I could talk about and that I love about it, and things that I would love to do with it. That it's always just a pleasure kind of talking about it, but also talking about it openly, like people sort of willing to kind of listen to things and even have their own ideas. And I love hearing other ideas and sort of pulling apart logic and my own logic and that sort of stuff. And because it is one of those things that there's no clear answers. And I would love to kind of throw my hat into that ring, and hopefully that resonates with people the way my art did on Defiance. But if not, that's cool. You know, there'll be another book around the corner. There's always going to be another Alien thing. You know, I'm sure, given now that Disney has acknowledged that they're doing Alien, that at some point down the track they're going to scorched earth the whole thing and do something new, because they're going to have to. Yeah. And it'll be the same with the Marvel stuff. It'll be the same with everything else. So
I just really hope they let Ridley finish his story.
Yeah, I do too. But I it's one of those things. If I can get a story out there and people enjoy it and people connect with it, job done. Yeah. I've got ideas that I feel really strongly and passionate about, and I would love to get them out there. And I feel like there are enough people who feel similarly, because I feel like if I feel a way about something, surely someone else does. And I've seen that there based on what I've had planned for my book and what I've seen come out in Resistance without having conferred with Brian. So I know that there are creative people who think very similarly, and I know that what I learnt about what was going to be Isolation 2 was very similar to what I assumed, or what I was thinking creatively would be the logical through line for a sequel to Isolation. So my gut feeling is with every story I have an idea for is that there is someone out there that will appreciate it. And ultimately I'm telling these stories because I want to tell them, and it's a creative outlet for me to get ideas across. But the hope is obviously that people will latch on and will like it, and if something else comes along after that completely retcons it, I don't care. The book's still out there and people can enjoy it, that's great. 3 Alien films on after Labyrinth and Salvation, I still read those books regularly. Same with the Star Wars stuff. I still read old Star Wars comics and play old games and things like that. My enjoyment of those things doesn't change, and my love of those ideas doesn't change at all either. It's just that now we have more ideas, and it changes how I look at those things.
I like that outlook. It's very good.
Well, that's something, and coming back full circle as well. Like, that's something I wish more people would have about texts, about ideas, and about all these things, and about creators and the things that they're consuming. I would love people to be more open-minded and have a little more kind of mouse about what they're doing and what they're thinking and what they're reading, and be a little more kind of open to ideas beyond their own. But people are going to be people, and they'll do what they're going to do. So you can never please everyone. And as long as I'm happy in what I'm doing, and that's the most important thing to me. And if people like that, even better.
Excellent.
So that's it. So I do, and in closing, I really, really do, and I cannot say it enough. I really appreciate all the love and support that I've got since Defiance, and even prior to Defiance, because that I grew up on this stuff, and I have a standard for it, and all that sort of stuff. So seeing people put me in that same kind of bracket as people I hold on a certain pedestal, it's mind blowing, and I can't really kind of express my gratitude kind of to an extent that I'm happy enough with. So hopefully people understand where I'm coming from with that and kind of accept that. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for talking with me, and this will be like a first for Studio Yutani, doing an in-person interview, apart from with Matt and Dane.
That's right.
Over in Sydney, but I did that for Perfect Organism, so that was different.
Oh, right. And I apologise to those guys. There was no slight in me doing this first. It was just kind of a matter of convenience and stars aligning.
Yeah, and AVP
my
Galaxy.
Own complacency. and AVP Galaxy. So, life, as they say in Jurassic Park, life finds a way, and it, found a way to get in the way.
Yes.
So I appreciate your patience, guys, and I promise you I will rectify all of that. And hopefully this gives you guys something to build off too. So
yeah, because I was careful to not go through too much of the sort of details that they like to go into.
No, I can tell just from listening to their stuff and the stuff we've talked about too. So I'll get to you guys soon, I promise.
All right, this is Mother 9000 and
Tristan Jones
signing off.
Have a good one, guys.
This is Colony Ship Covenant, reporting. All crew members, apart from Daniels in Tennessee, tragically perished in a solar flare incident. All colonists in hypersleep remain intact and undisturbed, on course for Orgai 6. Hopefully this transmission will reach the network and be relayed in 6 years.
You can now support Yutani Podcast on Patreon and subscribe to Yutani to stay up to date.